Continuation of the special meeting, register of voters, redistricting presentation. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you. Lou Fiore, Democratic Registrar of Voters.
Tom Kinsler, Republican Registrar of Voters.
And thank you very much for having us tonight. We wanted to get here as soon as we could after your budget, since there's a lot of things that need to proceed between now and November concerning this issue. So I'm going to get right into the presentation, if I may, and then take some questions afterwards, if that works all right with everybody. So as again, you can see, this is our presentation, Registrar of Voters, for the redistricting proposal we're going to present to you tonight. Very quickly, by statute, to the best of our ability, we attempted to balance out the 4 municipal districts by overall population, not by registered voters. This can be a difficult task, as the census data is provided to us in census blocks, not by street, and some of these census blocks are even split between council districts. We were unable to account for only 278 residents out of the 40,013 residents in town. And Tom and I had a variety of different formulas that we doubled and triple checked, so we're very confident with that, which we think is really below even the 1 percentile. So we felt pretty confident with the numbers we were dealing with. Just as background, any and all proposed, and I'm sure Attorney Talbert and Town Clerk Bailey will answer any questions on this. Any and all proposed municipal district changes must be approved by the Town Council via public hearing and a resolution. In addition, during the upcoming November 2022 election, the Enfield residents must vote and hopefully approve whatever plan you guys want to adopt. That's a requirement under our town charter. If passed, these changes will be in effect for the November 2023 municipal election and for all future municipal elections after that until 2033. Should be noted that the current margin, using the 2020 census data, between the largest district, which is 2, and the smallest district, which is 1, is only 560 residents. Separating them. Thus, the council can consider leaving the current council districts in place without any changes at all. With only 560 separating them, that is an option you do have if you so desire. In the new proposed plan that Tom and I are going to present to you tonight, the margin between the largest district, which would then be 4, and the smallest district, which is 1, would only be approximately 84 residents.
If you choose to not do anything, we feel that the next time this comes up, it'll be magnified. So the goal has always been, through history, to keep it as balanced as possible. And that's the way we came at it.
Yeah, just by maybe kicking the can down the road. And that's a lot of us, we feel, for the demographics of the District 2 changing over time. It'll be changed more over the next 10 years. So the proposed district changes that Tom and I are proposing to you is that moving into Council District 1 from Council District 4 would be the south side of Middle Road, the east side of Beach Road, and the Mark Twain area, the cutout that most of you are pretty familiar with the current map. Moving into District 3 from District 4 would be the Cozy Street area. And if you guys have your iPads, I think the map is on there on one of the slides. Moving into District 4, into District 3 from 4 would be the Cozy Street area. And basically, that's just one little area up there by Bacon Road that would balance out the numbers and make things within that 84 projectile. That's why we're recommending that. It really doesn't affect too many people. Matter of fact, that would be an easier, matter of fact, even the first recommendation, we believe the residents benefit from that because it's easier for them to get to JFK than it is for them to get over to Henry Barnard. And the same thing with the second option, moving into District 3 from 4, the Cozy Street area would then be voting at the annex instead of Henry Barnard. So again, it'd be easier for those residents to vote. And then finally, moving into District 4 from District 2 would be the remaining Mount Carmel neighborhood. Right now, that neighborhood, as you know, the cutout goes down to Sumner and then down Belmont. So it splits that neighborhood in half. And believe me, I'll be honest with you, when Tom and I started this process back in February, I think our intent was to really look at the other way around, was to put Mount Carmel neighborhood back together but put it back into 2. But when you look at the numbers for District 2, it just didn't work out that way, and this is one of the only options. We had to take people out of District 2.
One of the things we did when that came up is just to be doubly sure. We did a lot of checks and balances. We got in the car together and drove the neighborhood and literally counted doors in dwellings just to make sure, because we're looking at plots on maps, and they show a dwelling, looks like a one-family house, but it's probably not. So we went on and we added all those up and did what the averages had shown so far to really, really get it as close as we could to being accurate. So we didn't skip a 20-person tenement and count it as 3.
Yeah, one of the things we're not allowed to do is we're not allowed to conduct really our own census. We are allowed to be able to try to verify the data that we do have. So we have to be cognizant of that when we do physical drive-bys. So we're not allowed. I'll give you a perfect example. Mayfield Place, I think you all know where that is, right out in District 4, out by Shaker Pines, a new, wonderful, beautiful apartment complex. Well, the census data only had 100 people living there. Well, we all know at this point in time, when we did our plan here, we know that more than 100 people live there. We can't take that into consideration. We have to deal with the data that was given to us.
Which will be the same next time. Next time, there may be something else either going away or coming in that we have to go by the previous census the year before or 2 years before.
Moving on, I want to give you these detailed numbers. In District 1, if you went with our recommendation, the new plan would have 9,935 residents. If you want to remain as is, it would have 9,710 residents. District 2, the new plan would have 9,952 residents. If you want to remain as is, it would have 10,270 residents. District 3, the new plan would have 9,882 residents. Remain as is, 9,838. District 4, the new plan has 966 residents. Remain as is, 9,917. And we want to just give you those gross numbers so you can get a feel for what we were looking at. What I have here is the current. I know it's very difficult. We actually had to scan this in, and
We can't see that, but you guys can on your laptops.
Yeah, this is the current council map.
Proposal.
No, this is the current
that's
one
the current.
from 2012. We wanted to give you that so you had a
And
start.
that's what you just looked at here.
And this is the proposed one. The 3 changes, I don't really have a pointer. The 3 changes are certainly that far green box to the east is, we go into District 2, and that's just to keep the boxes contiguous. There's no voters in that. That's the, goes down from Palumba over to Freshwater. That's just to keep the box, get rid of the cutout and make it more uniform. There's no voters in that box.
It looks square now.
It looks nicer. It doesn't hurt anything. The blue box you see right below it is what we say is the current cutout now that would go into District 1. That's the Middle Road, Beach Road, Mark Twain area.
That used to be up in 4.
All that used to be in 4. And you look over, for those of you who know where Mount Carmel is, over on the west side, the farthest corner of that orange, that is now all orange. It's not mixed between District 2 and 4. And I'm not even going to try to, those of you who know where Cozy Street and Bacon Road is, you probably can see on that map where that is.
But a good example of why you do things, when I was on the council, I had the Beach Road. And that was moved strategically because it fit and it touched, so it needed to move. But the reality of it is, when you can avoid doing that because of the distance, the neighborhoods are not the same. Nobody up in 4 really has anything to do with Mark Twain unless they have an elderly parent. But people down on Beach Road do, and they care about it. So that really going over, moving its district appropriately, kind of keeps it in the neighborhood. And that's another thing you try to think about when you make any of these moves, like people getting to the polling place, as Lou mentioned before.
Yeah, we really wanted to try to put some neighborhoods back together again. And our intent was to do that one way or the other. Certainly, I remember the cutout because I worked on that 2002 plan when we did that cutout. So it'd be nice to get rid of the cutout at this point. Just to mention this, because I know that a couple of you might have some questions about this, we just wanted to throw this slide in just so that people knew also, because we know somebody might be watching on TV. Basically, the State Assembly redistricted itself, as you're well aware. We had to implement those changes. We had no say in them. We had no discussion. We were given the work to do, and we did that back in February, right after we met with you in January. We implemented these changes. So there were some minor changes made to the 58th and 59th State Assembly districts as it pertains to Enfield, major changes to that district. But as far as Enfield's concerned, and really the only changes we had to make were basically these streets were removed from the 59th and are now in the 58th. And that's, some of these streets were partially in both down through the center line, but now they're completely in the 58th. Edwards Street, Avon Street Extension, Essex Street, Beverly Street, Carlisle Street, top of Oldfield Farms, north side of Middle Road, and a portion of Hazard Avenue. Their voting location did not change. They're still going to vote at the annex, but instead of going, the state election is going into the 59th line, they now go into the 58th line. And all those residents, it's about 100, I think, give and take, were all notified by letter from us of that change and that their polling place did not change. So I thought I'd just mention that in case you get asked that question.
It also smooths out the square. You know,
Yeah.
it was down the street, up, over, down, back down the street. Now that's been pushed back up.
Yes, nice even cut out there. So again,
Obviously, my neighbor voting where I'm voting, you get less of that now.
nice. I'm really glad the state implemented that change. It really makes a lot of sense, and I think it made sense for the Annfield residents.
The other thing, just that, not that it matters, but like for East Windsor in the 59, they did a major shift over there of residents. It's like 4,700 on the census moved from one to the other. Luckily in Enfield, it was just a small little tiny piece. Doug.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Johnny. on
Thank
the
you.
spot.
All right, Alex.
Stay here, don't go anywhere.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. I knew the keyboard wasn't working. So in summary, basically, as you can see, we provided you with two options. One is you can adopt the proposed plan, or you can have the current districts remain as is. I should have put a third option if you have some suggestions for us, but we're kind of running out of time on that.
You got the deadline dates?
I'm not sure if Sheila Bailey has a deadline dates, but as you know, as I mentioned before, you have some things to do over the summer, and usually you don't really meet in August. So recommendations for us to go back, we might not have enough time to get back to you in time for you to proceed for
We have
having
to
this go
have
referendum.
into SOTS, we have to have, by statute, the referendum question, if that's what's going to happen. That has to be in September.
Yeah, September something.
The last day for the municipality to pass a question for the ballot is 9/8.
Yeah, so September 8th, which is right after
It's
Labor
a
Day.
November thing, but it's a September drop dead date.
And as we said before, I'm pretty sure that there has to be a resolution on your part prior to that and a public hearing, and who wants to do things in August. So, but again, we're open, we don't want to say we're not open to things. So I think that's the end of our presentation. We'll take questions.
Perfect, thank you. Questions, Cindy?
Thank you both. I know you put in a tremendous amount of time and hard work, and thank you for doing that. The question that I have, the next step then would be for council to decide whether to accept option 1 or 2. Should we decide to go with the change to the redistricting, then we would prepare a resolution to have the public hearing, and then it goes on for referendum?
Right.
Okay, and it'd be voted on in November?
It'd be like, in the beginning of July or
Okay,
for, like a target.
so there's still a little bit of time.
There's still a bit of time, yeah. I mean, it's your time, not our time. We have plenty of time. We do have an August election, but it's really your time and the things you're up against to have this done in time. That's one of the reasons why we really wanted to come tonight.
Yeah.
We waited for you guys to
Not-
finish
not
the
to
budget.
next meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry
I think-
about that.
Thank you very much.
Right, we only have one meeting in July and one meeting in August,
Right,
too.
right.
Yes, we have a timer.
Absolutely. Nick?
You mentioned, the thought that if we don't make these changes now, it may be harder in the future. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have thought about what that might look like in 10 years, just
Yep.
assuming the current population trend.
With the trends, you'd see probably a District 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think when you look at the demographics, gee, thanks for the question, Councilman Hopkins. So now you're going to write up my bailiwick. So knowing the demographics of the town, having done this particular function twice before in my lifetime, and I'm not going to do it a fourth time. No, I'm not. The demographics, basically what happened, we saw with the census data, was that we don't believe the turnover of households has occurred in District 1 yet. We think there's a lot of people that are still holding on to their homes in that district that probably no children are there.
But it will.
But we've seen that turnover in District 4 and District 3 at this point over the last few years. You can tell by the registrations that come in the office, the changing of the families, the younger families moving. And we haven't quite seen that in District 1 yet. We think that's going to happen over the next 10 years. That would kind of make sense when you think about the age brackets. In addition to that, we also believe, Tom and I, when the census was done in 2020, or a little later next year, there was a little bit of an extension, there was full occupancy in District 2 in all the apartments, and that's why the numbers came in high. But we think that's going to kind of remain, especially what might be happening around the train station, possibly condominiums or more apartments. So we do see having to physically, like we did this time, recommend a physical change to District 2. We didn't anticipate that. So we see with the density of District 2 increasing, that 10 years from now, who's ever doing this is probably going to have to make District 2 even physically smaller.
Right.
And the only other place really you can make District 2 physically smaller that makes any sense would be to cross the street from Mount Carmel neighborhood, which is the Lynch Road. I forgot the other street over there. Would be to put that into District 4. Because, you want to try to keep natural things together and neighborhoods together.
You can't move certain things.
Yeah.
It has to have a natural boundary, like a river or a street that connects, and you can't just take this half of that street and move it over and call it a day. You have to take that section or that street or two out of there. It can get difficult.
Yeah, so that's just thinking 10 years down, or that could change. But if you ask me today, that's what I would
If you
say.
want my opinion is always do what the state wants you to do, if you can. And that's, my recommendation would be to make the changes, because it smooths out, it evens things out, it's better for the people. And next time we go to do it, we may or may not have a magnified problem, like Lou was mentioning too. The other thing to consider is, as the housing market changes, big houses may be selling great, or they may be selling terrible. And Cindy knows all about that. And she doesn't have a magic ball to tell you that, but it all depends on a lot of different things. So trying to keep it up to date is, I guess, what I'm saying.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
But we can't tell you. You have to make that decision yourself.
Any other questions? John?
Thank you guys for this work, and that map is always a joy to try to read up close. I just want to be clear. If we make the change, no issue. There's nothing wrong if we don't make those changes. Right?
That's correct.
I mean, other than we're a little off balance, anticipating the next time.
I don't really
maybe
know what the state,
Just
what everyone else, like, the only town that didn't do anything was Enfield. But it all hedges on the numbers.
on the numbers. So I'm just asking, like, by the numbers and only by the numbers, leaving it alone doesn't create problems.
I think it
with-
won't, but I also, if it was 1,000,
Yeah, that's what
100?
that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
I'd be really uncomfortable with that.
Right now, it's only 560 residents. If we left the current plan in place between the largest district and small, and basically even legally, we got a legal opinion that basically we could leave it alone if you guys so desired to leave it alone.
Which we
But in
did.
one aspect, it is kicking the can down the road a little bit. And we did kind of look at it a little bit to try to, reblock the town or get rid of some of the fancy cutouts. And I'm just as much to blame for some of those cutouts, so.
So the advantages would be, as an unbiased, the advantage for the residents would be, it helps a few of them in where they go to vote and what issues may come up in the area that they happen to live in, as opposed to where the rest of the district is, and, being in their neighborhood. And it evens it out, from let's try to make it as even as possible. Those are the three benefits.
It was always interesting just campaigning on one side of the street.
I used to have to walk, I'll tell you.
Fighting over whose sign.
When they told me I had to go down Beach Road don't forget about Beach Road. I'm like, where's Beach Road?
Yeah.
Oh, down there, okay. You have to go down and do that street.
So there's history about that.
No, that's,
Councilman Mangini and I probably remember that history with that.
but at the time, that was the thing that needed to be done.
Yeah, it needs to be done, yes. Yeah.
Thank you. All set, John? Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I'll just be quick. I think the new plan is fair. The difference between residents is fairly low. If we remain as is, there's like a 500, 300 difference between residents. I think it's fair. And honestly, I think we should be able to do this in the July meeting where we have a public hearing, which gives people a chance to come here and speak, and then have August or September to vote on it, which should be plenty of time for you folks. I don't see why we can't have a public hearing in July at that meeting. I mean, this looks fair to me. I mean, I know it's not easy, but the difference between the highest and lowest, about 80 residents, is pretty, and all the other ones are right within the ballgame, not 200, 300, 400 difference, which I think, and I agree, it's going to grow. I think it's going to change actually more than that in the next few years. So I recommend your plan, and I think we should have a public hearing in July meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Looks like no more any questions from you guys? All right. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
If you decide, well, I think I had a quick question if I can.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor. If they decide to do nothing, they still have to have a public hearing and a resolution and on referendum question? That's the part I'm not clear of.
I would have to check on that. The Charter, Chapter 2, Section 5 says the council shall, from time to time, alter the boundaries. I just reviewed the statute 9-169, and it just seems like you have to do the review. I'm not sure you have to hold a public hearing. I'll have to double check on that.
Okay, so-
I didn't see a requirement.
Okay, so maybe if you don't
We just
decide
want
to
to
do
make sure
anything, might not
all the
have to do
i's are
anything.
dotted and the t's are
Yeah.
crossed in case
Yep.
nothing happens.
So if you do have a public hearing, you'd like us to come back to help you with that, answering questions, please just let us know. We'd be more than
Absolutely.
glad to.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, good to
Thank
see
you.
everybody. Thank you
Good
so much.
seeing you.
Can I get a motion to adjourn the special meeting, please? Second. By Counselor Mangini and seconded by Counselor Ungary. All right. Bang my gavel. I think we start WPCA in 5 minutes, right? Yes. Cool. All right.
I can see the emotional argument of the current, how they don't want to do it. Just the way it's always been. Here they jump at attention.
I've always wanted to do that. Okay, I'd like to call the Water Pollution Control Authority special meeting to order Monday, June 6th at 6:45 in the council chambers with the sewer use fees and rates for the public hearing. Can I get a roll call, please?
Vice Chairperson Sakala.
Here.
Chairman Crisati is absent. Commissioner Despard.
Here.
Commissioner Finger.
Here.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Here.
Commissioner Ludwig.
Here.
Commissioner Mangini.
Here.
Commissioner Pisner.
Here.
Commissioner Santinella.
Here.
Commissioner Ungary.
Here.
That's 9 members are present and 1 is absent.
Thank you. The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Courant on Tuesday, May 24th. Town of Enfield legal notice. The Enfield Water Pollution Control Authority will hold a public hearing in Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers at 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, June 6th, 2022, at 6:45 p.m. to allow interested residents the opportunity to express their opinions regarding the proposed sewer service fees and rates for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Information can be found in the office of the town clerk or at www.enfield-ct.gov. By Sheila Bailey, town clerk, dated May 19th, 2022. Ground rules for this public hearing. There is no time limit, but I do ask that each person not take up too much time so everybody has an opportunity to speak. After each person who desires has had one chance to speak, I will permit those people who desire to speak a second time. After those individuals who desire to speak a second time, will allow people who want to speak a third time, and so on and so forth, and we just ask that you be respectful. So, if anybody would like to come up for this public hearing, and it's a public hearing on the sewer fees only. So, ma'am? We're going to have the special, we'll have our regular meeting and the agenda afterwards, but right now it's just for the sewer fees. Okay? Okay. Pretend we didn't see it. Just, we ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street in Enfield. I had to chuckle when I read the resolution 6237 in the Water Pollution Control Authority special meeting minutes of Monday, May 16, 2022. I quote, "Whereas the Enfield Water Pollution Control Authority values the opinions and comments of its constituents, and whereas in accordance with Section 86-52F, the Water Pollution Control Authority must hold a public hearing on the proposed sewer service fees and rates for the upcoming fiscal year," end quote. So now that we have established that you value my opinion, I will take the one opportunity a year to give my opinion and comment. I find it hard to believe, as the Water Pollution Control Authority, you are in charge of a $9 million budget, yet there are no meetings as the Water Pollution Control Authority to discuss this. No meetings to discuss the projected revenue, no meetings to discuss how you arrive at the rates, no meetings to discuss capital improvements, no meetings to discuss plant additions or the status of the facilities. Yet somehow, you are able to have one meeting a year to set the date for the public hearing and another to have a public hearing and set the rate. The decisions of the Water Pollution Control Authority should be decisions of the authority. Even though the town council members are the Water Pollution Control Authority, these two entities are two separate entities and should have all separate meetings. One should not have to go through the vast pages of the minutes of the town council meetings to find out what is going on with the water pollution control plant or why money had to be transferred to purchase a new forklift. The money paid for revenues should be going into the WPCA, not the town of Enfield. Unfortunately, there is not any data to determine if the rates are fair and even necessary. No data on money received versus dollars billed. No data on how much was spent on collections. No data on how much past due receivables were outstanding or collected this past year or two. No data on usage or current rates, under the current rates. How do you determine these new higher rates are necessary? How much money is in the fund balances attributed to the Water Pollution Control Authority? Can any of you answer any of these questions? Some of this information may be buried in the town of Enfield budget, but it should not be. I know you are all elected volunteers, but please consider holding separate WPCA meetings to discuss all WPCA issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Would anybody else wish to speak on the public hearing for the sewer fees? Anybody else? Anybody for a second time? Okay. I declare the public hearing closed. And Sheila, do we have to do a separate roll call now? Okay. Do I have to close the public hearing and then open a new one? Okay, just do a separate roll call? Okay, Sheila, can we have a roll call for the WPCA meeting, please?
Vice Chairperson Sakala?
Here.
Chairman Crisati is absent. Commissioner Despard?
Here.
Commissioner Finger?
Here.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Here.
Commissioner Ludwig?
Here.
Commissioner Mangini?
Here.
Commissioner Pisner? Here. Commissioner Santinella?
Here.
Commissioner Ungary? 9 members are present and 1 is absent.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is discussion resolution adopting the 2022-2023 sewer service fees. Get to the resolution. Resolution setting sewer use charge rate for 2022-2023 billing, whereas in accordance with Chapter 103, Section 7-255 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Enfield Sewer Authority held a public meeting on June 6, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. in the council chambers in the Town Hall, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, hearing comments on the proposed 2019, that should be 2022 to 2023 sewer service fee schedule. So we'll have to amend that. Therefore, be it resolved, the Enfield Sewer Authority does hereby adopt the sewer service fee schedule attached hereto as Attachment A, prepared by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
Thank you. By Cindy, seconded by,
Matt.
right, but it's not Councilman. It is Commissioner Despard. I wanted to make sure I got it right. Thank you. So before we do discussion, we'll need to amend the resolution. It says 2019 to 2020 sewer fee. So I don't know if we want to just do a friendly amendment on that. Okay.
Yeah, I think you should have a friendly amendment.
Okay. Somebody want to?
There's a typo. It says 2019-2020. Should be 2022 to 2023.
2023. So does somebody want to make that amendment and second it?
I will make the amendment. that on the
Commissioner
res-
Pisner?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, you're good.
I was
Yep.
going to make the amendment from 2019 to 2020 to 22 to 23.
Motion done by Commissioner Pisner, seconded by Commissioner Mangini. Do we have to approve that? I'm sorry, go ahead, Sheila. Just a
can
show
just
of
do a
hands,
show of
right?
hands, yes.
Okay, a show of hands on the amendment to the resolution? Perfect. Okay, now discussion on the main resolution. Sensing none? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Ludwig.
I don't know if, John, if you're willing to come up, just could give people an idea, I know what our reserves are, currently, and also, are we still collecting back unpaid? I know we hired a lawyering firm a few years ago to do that. I know we collected around a $1.3 million in unpaid sewer fees over there. Are we still doing that? And that's one of the reasons why we have a surplus which can cover, the balloon payment that we owe this year. If you just give a little background there. Thank you.
Yes, as of June 30th, 2021, we had a fund balance of $2,150,000. And we have been using actually state marshals to collect back to sewer use fees. Usually, I think we give them a grace period of about, I think it's like 6 to 8 months before we'll actually refer them to the state marshal. And she's been doing a very good job of actually collecting the back due amounts.
Rough estimate how much we've collected doing it. We've been doing it for, what, 2 years now, right? I know it was at one point 1.2, I thought, million.
Give me 1 second. I'll have to give you the. Yes, we've collected about almost $1.9 million in past due sewer fees.
So that program's ongoing.
Yes, it is.
Right. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Go ahead, Commissioner Mangini.
Thank you, John. I know that this issue has come up before. Where are we with regards to the state of Connecticut paying their fair share for the prisons?
The state of Connecticut paid the entire amount about 2 years ago. It was $2,501,000, if I remember
they're paid
correctly, and they are paid in full.
They
Yes.
don't owe us any more money.
No,
Okay,
not for
thank
this
you.
project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Thank you, Commissioner, thank you, and Deputy Mayor. To Ms. LaPlante's point, I think it's really important that we think about having a separate entity, whether that's the town council meeting separately or whether we're pairing off a little bit of our authority and creating a separate entity to really think about future planning for the water pollution control system. It's a huge part of our town. And I'm hopeful we can do that in the future. I know there have been some discussions about that already, so I'm hopeful that there'll be some movement in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Sensing no more discussion, roll call, please.
Vice Chair Sakala.
4.
Commissioner Despard.
4.
Commissioner Finger.
4.
Commissioner Hopkins.
4.
Commissioner Ludwig.
4.
Commissioner Mangini.
4.
Commissioner Pisner. 4. Commissioner Santinella.
4.
Commissioner Ungary. 4. 9 members for and none against.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Mangini, seconded by Commissioner Ungary. And we adjourn the WPCA, and we should roll right into the public hearing for the Neighborhood Assistant Act. Can I get roll call, please?
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Mayor Crisati is absent. Councilor Despard.
Here.
Councilor Finger.
Here.
Councilor Hopkins.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Councilor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
9 members present and 1 absent.
Thank you. The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Courant on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. Town of Enfield legal notice. The Town Council will hold a public hearing in Enfield Town Hall, Council Chambers at 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, June 6, 2022, at 6:50 p.m. to allow interested residents the opportunity to express their opinions regarding the 2022 Neighborhood Assistant Act proposals. For more information, contact the Office of Economic and Community Development at 860-253-6391 or ntereso@enfield.org. Dated this 19th of May 2022 by Sheila M. Bailey, Town Clerk. Ground rules for this public hearing is the same as the last. There is no time limit, but I ask that each person not take up too much time so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. After everybody who wants to speak has spoken the first time, we will allow for a second time, and so on and so forth. And again, just please be respectful. Would anybody in the audience like to speak as to the Neighborhood Assistant Act proposal only? Yes, ma'am. Feel free, come on up and just state your name and address for the record, please. Just make sure you press the button so it's lit up.
It is lit. Okay, my name is Judith Uricchio. I live at 11 Orchard Hill Drive, and I'm a facilitator for a free giving store. We would like to apply for funds to replace a roof, which is on the community center at St. Patrick's Church. 14 years ago, we came up with the concept of helping the people in Thompsonville, Old Thompsonville, prepare for school. And we had what we called a back-to-school drive. At that time, I had 4 volunteers, including myself. We had an enormous amount of outpouring of merchandise for children going back to school. We advertised just by handing out leaflets and telling people about it. The day finally arrived, and on that day, we had 300 people come to the event. We had 150 pairs of jeans, which I thought would never go away. They just disappeared. So all of these children were able to go to school in new-to-them clothing. Shortly after that, our pastor thought it would be a very good idea to go along with the plan to start a free giving store. We took over what was the old chapel in our center and made it into a store. The first day that we were open, we had 1 person come in. My heart sank. To date, we have anywhere between 22 and 33 people coming into the store to get free, nearly new used merchandise from ages infants on up. Additionally, we include household goods such as blankets, toasters, glasses, dishes, etc. We are in dire need of having the roof replaced, and we went as far as to go ahead and to get bids on the replacement, which are $30,000. With the pandemic and whatnot, our contributions to our church have fallen dramatically, as they have in other institutions. It is really dire need that we continue the work that we started 14 years ago in order to enable the people, dignity, to come in, choose what they wish, and use the money that they have saved by not having to buy shoes, coats, blankets, etc., on other items for their personal use. So they are, in effect, controlling what they want and what they do with their money. So we wish that the town would consider making a situation for us where our debt would be washed away. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
I don't know that we can ask questions, but when we're all done, I think the town manager probably has a few
Okay, I am
comments.
new at this, so I thank you
that's
very
fine.
much
So
for
am
your
I.
consideration. You're doing much better than I do.
Would anybody else like to speak on the Neighborhood Assistance Act topic only? Anybody for a second time? Okay, I will declare the public hearing closed. And before we adjourn, I guess, or before I declare it closed, maybe? Okay, before I declare it closed, Ellen, if you have anything?
Yes. For those who are watching the meeting and those who are here that may not be familiar with the Neighborhood Assistance Act, it is a program through the state of Connecticut in which a corporation that has a certain tax status can, instead of sending their tax obligation monies to the state of Connecticut, could in fact designate those funds to instead go to a recipient nonprofit organization. Here in Enfield, there are 2 that have applied for this program that we will be forwarding those applications to the state. We are not in a position of authority on this. We are simply a pass-through that goes to the Department of Revenue Services. Really, your role is to evaluate whether those nonprofits are in good standing, whether their projects are worthwhile, and we go forward from there. So this year there are a total of 3 applications, 2 from Opera House and 1 from Loaves and Fishes. I would say to St. Patrick's that if there is a nonprofit tax ID number that you can use, there is still time to put in an application with the state, and I would be happy to help you with that. I've done several of these applications. But more importantly, we also have made available through the budget process nonprofit assistance through our ARPA fund, which this church, other churches, and all nonprofits would be eligible for application for those funds. Part of my update tonight in my town manager's report, which instead I will give now, is that the Economic Development Commission has started their work in evaluating how to put out the information to the business community for the business money that you set aside. The nonprofit money is a separate pool. We have not yet set parameters on that. So that's right now the program. Again, tonight, neighborhood assistance, we're simply receiving applications. We are passing them on to the State Department of Revenue Service. The recipient organizations, right now there are 2 with a potential of a 3rd, would then have to go out in the fall and find business partners who are eligible to participate and have them commit to their organization. It is a non-binding commitment based on their tax liability. So, XYZ Corporation could tell the Opera House players, we're good for $50,000. If 3 months later it turns out that it's $30,000, that's great. It could also turn into 0. That's okay too. It's not a legally binding obligation. So in the case of the specific discussion tonight, if you were interested and you had a 501c3 tax ID number, we could work to get your application in before July 1st. Otherwise, as we discussed, the ARPA funds and those guidelines for nonprofits who have need that serve the community, which you do in one of our qualified census tracts of Thompsonville, that kind of is going to put you to the top of that list based on the fact that those are the neighborhoods that they're looking to serve with ARPA funds. So it's 2 different programs that are kind of intertwined tonight based on that public hearing.
Thank you. So now I will declare the public hearing closed. And it is already after 7, so we will roll right into the regular meeting of the Town Council with the prayer by Councilor Finger.
I want to start off by saying I had a hard time writing prayers for tonight. We lost a DPW member, George Wally II, and his niece, Michelle, put this in Facebook, and I want to read that as my prayer for tonight, please. And again, this is her, not me. My uncle was a bodyguard at life. He stood in the background, keeping those he loved safe and doing what he needed to be done. He was a friend. I'm sorry. John, read this for me, please. Read this for me. I'm sorry. John's going to read this for me.
He was a friend to many who needed it, and as stubborn as they come. He loved his son beyond comprehension. He truly was his life and his best friend. He had a soft spot for his pups and those he saw struggling. This morning I went down the aisle at a store and just as well walked. He had no real purpose to be there other than didn't know where to go or what to do, so that seemed better than just sitting. The entire time I watched as people went about their day, wondering if anyone knew, but no one did because it wasn't their story. It was my family's. Life went on. Days continued when mine and my family's halted. I found myself wanting to scream, cry, and tell anyone, but I didn't. I just walked. Today made me different, made me think of what other people's stories were, and we honestly had no clue about. No one knew mine, and I knew no one else's. A thought that didn't sink in until today. I mean, you hear people say it all the time, but today I lived it. Be kind, love hard and love often, and live, because when you're gone, that's all that's left. It just keeps going on.
Thank you. Amen.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Doug and John. Item 3, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
Sorry. Here.
Counselor Hopkins.
Here.
Counselor Ludwig.
Here.
Counselor Mangini.
Here.
Counselor Pisner.
Here.
Counselor Santinella.
Here.
Counselor Ungary.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Here.
And Mayor Crisati is absent. And Counselor Despard.
Here.
That's 9 members present and 1 absent.
Item 4, fire evacuation announcement. In the unlikely event of a fire, there are 2 exits. There's an exit in the back of the chambers, and to my left, your right, please get up and swiftly but orderly leave the building and go down the stairs to the parking lots. Item 5, meeting minutes of the preceding minutes. Can I get a motion to accept the special meeting of May 11th?
Motion to accept.
Motion by Counselor Mangini, seconded by Counselor Pisner. Any discussion, deletions, additions? Okay, all in favor by a show of hands? 10 in favor, or 9 in favor, no abstentions. Regular meeting minutes of May 16th, 2022.
So moved.
By Counselor Mangini. Seconded by Counselor Santinella. Any questions, deletions, additions? Sensing none, by show of hands, all in favor? 9 in favor, no abstentions, no objections. Special guest number 6. If we could have Jackie Bosco, Joe Mueller, Carl Sferrazza, and Donna Susak. Wants to go out in the front? On up. Is this on? Is this on? Okay. First and foremost, welcome back and welcome to our guests of honor tonight. We want to honor the past counselors and their family for their service to our town over their tenure. Mayor Crisati wishes he was here. His daughter got married up in Maine, and they are very late getting back. So if you, do you mind just holding that for me? We have copies of this print for each and every one of you as a thank you to for your service. And I've personally served with the 3 of you and with Joey, and it was an honor. Didn't always get along, but we always knew that your heart was in the right spot. And we're all a little jealous of your free time now, but I'm sure you're filling it with other things that are equally as important and fulfilling. So, Donna, thank you very much for your service. Joe, thank you very much for your service. Carl, for you, thank you. That's for you. That's for you. Jackie, this is for you in honor of Joey, and I do have something else for you. Just something very little, but a certificate of appreciation in honor of Joey. 14 years of service he gave this town. We all know his dedication. We all know his love of Enfield. And he gave a lot, but we also know the sacrifice that you and your family made over those 14 years. Countless hours of Joey spending his nights and probably a lot of time during the day on the phone, missing family dinners and things like that, but he loved this town. And we thank you for his years of dedication, and we thank him. So here you go. I'm going to give it over to Mike, who also served with Joey for a very long time.
I'm going to be brief in honor of Joey. Listen, I mean, the folks that are here and who aren't here, you managed the town through the pandemic, that was 100 years ago. You did it. We didn't miss a meeting. We met every week at times. We were the first council in the state to get back in person and allow people here. And a lot of these projects that are going on in town were a testament to the work that you folks did and the courage that you had to push things forward when other folks were so worried about just getting through the day. And obviously Councilor Bosco is a friend of mine. It's just not the same not be able to pick up the phone and listen to him yell at me. It's just not the same. But again, you folks should be proud that the town is in a better position and actually in front of many other towns in our region because you never stopped during a pandemic. No one's going to congratulate you, no one's going to thank you, but when you look in the mirror, you did your job when things were tough. And appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Not to put anybody on the spot, but if you have any words, you're welcome.
Actually, I'd just like to thank everybody for allowing me to serve in the town of Enfield. 12 years as an elected official and 20 years in the school system. So it's a lot. We're trying, now I'm retired and I'm finding out that, all around this country, there's people who love people who volunteer.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you, everyone. This is an honor.
I just want to thank Deputy Mayor and all the members of the council for taking the time for this tonight. And I really want to extend a heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to the people in Enfield back in 2019. You voted me in. I got to serve for 2 years. I did the best I could, and I thank you very much.
Just wanted to say thank you. Joey would have been very humbled by everything and the support that he received. This was his greatest accomplishment. He loved this town more than anything. So what he did with integrity and respect. So, and we kind of miss it too because we get to hear all the stuff going on. Thank you so much.
Item 7 on the agenda is public communications and petitions. Any person wishing to speak, we ask you that when you come up, you state your name and address for the record. You're first on the list, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak for your first time and 3 minutes when we come back. Please remember, it is not a back and forth, and we ask you to be respectful. And if you are not the one speaking, just hold all your comments in the audience. Thank you. Come on up, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Juliet Leith. I live at 3 Catherine Road. I'm very excited to be before you, but first I want to extend my condolences to Councilman Finger. We weep with those who weep and mourn with those who mourn. At a lighter note, good evening. I've come before you tonight excited to make a request that the historical and Revolutionary War pine tree flag, or we call it the pine tree or appeal to heaven flag, be displayed on the town hall building, especially for the month of July, as our country celebrates Independence Day, or even sometime thereafter, because I know it has to be voted on. And this is what it looks like, show and tell. I am a retired teacher. I lived in Enfield since in Enfield since 1982, when I retired as an Enfield teacher after 35 years of teaching. I will now briefly share why I believe this flag should be honored and displayed. I just feel by our patriotic tone. First, I will share Enfield's connection to the Revolutionary War, and then I will briefly share the general historical significance of the flag that I have here. I have folders with information that I'm be reading, and I will leave it. All right. The Enfield connection to the Revolutionary War. At a meeting of the freeholders and other inhabitants of the town of Enfield on July 11th, 1774, Enfield unanimously resolved to an official and completely committed path to engagement in the Revolutionary War. When fighting broke out in Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775, word arrived in Enfield the next day by a post rider. With no church bells to sound alarms, the town drummer, Thomas Abbey, immediately began to sound the alarm. This event is commemorated by the statue of Captain Abbey and his drum in front of our Congregational Church on Enfield Street. Enfield's support for and participation in the war was strong. Quotas for men and supplies were always met. The families of soldiers were supported. The town even paid the soldiers when Congress could not. Enfield has a very patriotic history which continues to this day with our patriotic parades and festivals for the 4th of July. The pine tree flag is a commemoration of that patriotism before and during the Revolutionary War. It is a reminder of the importance Enfield places on freedom. Now, just a brief couple paragraphs on the historical significance of the pine tree flag. The pine tree flag became synonymous with the American struggle for liberty. It was quite significant that it had flown over our nation at its birthing. It was not the Stars and Stripes, but a flag commissioned by our first president, George Washington, before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. In fact, before the Revolutionary War actually began, General Washington formed and financed America's first Navy and commissioned them to sail with this flag flying overhead. During the American Revolution, an evergreen tree on a white standard could be seen flying in Massachusetts and before long throughout all the 13 colonies. This pine tree flag was characterized by having both a tree, most commonly thought to be a pine or cypress, and the motto reading an appeal to heaven, which became the decreed statement over the nation as this flag flew amid battlefields and encampments. It repeatedly led the American Revolution's grossly outnumbered and under-resourced troops into battle as they fought the war for America's freedom. This flag's history is expansive and profound, as there are recorded in the history of those days many instances of the use of the pine tree flag between October 1775 and July 1776.
Ms. Lee, you have about 20 seconds.
As we celebrate the birth of our nation, and we do it so well at Enfield, and remember the rigorous battles fought to secure our freedoms, it just seems fitting to me to display this flag that holds such a great significance to our nation's founding history for the month of July. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you didn't finish, you're welcome to come back for your second round afterwards.
And so I just request that you consider a resolution to fly this flag on the town hall.
Thank you.
And I do have packets if you need to. I'll leave it with. Need to pass those out. Thank you. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you. I will try to remember to give people a 30-second warning if I get there. Kelly, come on up.
Kelly Hemmler, 10 Hartford Ave. Thank you for the history lesson. That was awesome. And so glad that Jackie Bosco was here. It's great to see you, Jackie. A couple things I just wanted to talk about. I've been paying attention to the tax assessor issue because nonprofits, farms, and residents have been greatly affected. The purpose of the Board of Assessment Appeals is to offer some relief to taxpayers, and the board is governed by the Connecticut state statute, which clearly states that the town tax assessment office is not supposed to interfere. This year's Board of Assessment Appeals proceedings were more numerous and complicated because there was a revaluation of properties and because nonprofits and farms were notified that they were losing their status. This helps no one. When I give money to nonprofit organizations, I don't expect the money to be paid to the town for taxes. As far as farms, traditionally, communities expect their food grown to be taxed at a lower rate. The farms are not making a lot of money, but they are growing much-needed food. And this is not a political issue. This is a let's do the right thing for Enfield issue. The minutes of the proceedings, very detailed, were voted on and posted as law requires. I did take a look at them, and then when I went back to reference, I noticed that they had disappeared from the website, which is, I'm here to say, I just want to know why. I mean, it doesn't seem, I don't believe that the state statute allows you to do that. So if you don't know why, can you please find out? The second issue that I'm here for is the Republicans lost a giant 2 months ago. Councilor Joey Bosco was a huge loss to his family, friends, and the town in general. It was difficult to even consider putting someone to take his spot. I struggled. But I knew Joey very well, and he would expect us to fill the vacancy. The Enfield Republicans, according to the bylaws, did just that approximately 6 weeks ago. Our endorsed candidate is a good man, someone that Joey knew very well also, and we know that he'll do his best for Enfield. I'm so happy to see it on the agenda today. And what I'm asking you respectfully, I'm asking you to vote for Jim Nasuda, to vote yes for him. And because District 1 deserves their representation back. So I'm asking you that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Anyone else? Sir? Just state your name and address for the record, and then I can start your time.
My name's Jason Walsh. I live at 12 Weymouth Drive in Enfield. The reason I came up today, let me start off by saying that I want to tell the town council that I appreciate you giving up your own personal time to serve on this body, and I understand that's a lot for everybody. So I want to tell you all that I appreciate that. That being said, as a resident of District 1, I'm kind of concerned that Councilman Bosco's seat is still open. This council was provided with information with the endorsed candidate for that seat over a month ago and done nothing with it. You questioned Mr. Nasuda. Seems like a very qualified candidate based on his resume. But it seems like when you did question him, you said that he wasn't a good fit. Questions that you were asked were how he felt about Joe Biden stickers and teachers' conspiracies, which frankly sounds like a lot of political stuff, which is pretty much irrelevant because there is personal opinions and they're really not the purview of this body to even know or be concerned about. So I don't know why they were even asked. But the same body that endorsed Councilman Bosco, the same body that put him up to nominate him to fill that seat, that allowed him to be voted in by the majority of the residents of the 1st District, gave you a perfectly good candidate, a candidate that they spent a lot of time, and I have personal knowledge of this, they spent a lot of time discussing as to whether or not he would be a good fit to fill the seat of Councilman Bosco, that he would emulate Councilman Bosco. Because we all agree that that Councilman Bosco earned that seat. And we wanted to respect that and put the person in the seat that would be the most like him and would represent him and think about what he would want as the councilman in that seat. And it seems like you disregard that. And that's concerning. The fact that you interview candidates that live outside of District 1 to fill the District 1 seat is also concerning. As a resident of District 1, I'm quite concerned about it because it seems like you disregard the residents of District 1. You don't think that we're worthy for some reason. I've also heard rumors that say that members of this council were reaching out on their own to ask citizens if they wanted to fill Mr. Bosco's seat. That's completely outside of what this council should be doing. Individual members of this council reaching out to individual citizens of this town and asking them if they would like to fill the seat outside of the council? I don't get it. Mr. Asadu is a really great guy. He is very qualified for this position. And truthfully, if this council is not unanimous about placing him in Councilman Bosco's seat for the remainder of Councilman Bosco's term, it just stinks of politics. And if politics is the concern of this council more than the residents of this town, I feel like y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I thank you for the time, and I hope that you guys will make the right decision.
Thank you. Gentleman behind Peter, and Peter, you can go next. Well, he had his hand up first. Jonathan Grande. Yes.
Thank you. Jonathan Grande, Spruceland Road, Enfield, Connecticut. Good evening, councilors. I hope you got a chance to get outside today. It was a gorgeous day. I just came back from shopping, so I'm a little bit ornery. A lot of the shelves were empty, just about every single store. A little upsetting. And then to hear some of the comments tonight are a little upsetting as well. I had heard also that Jim Nasuto was interviewed as a courtesy to the team here and was told he was not a good fit. And some of the questions were quite concerning, specifically questions about where he attends church and what he may believe as a follower of Jesus Christ. That borders on discrimination of somebody's religious beliefs. Those are completely inappropriate questions to be asked of somebody to sit on a government town council. Further, questions about what he believes the teachers do and what their jobs are is, again, out of the purview of the town council. That's a Board of Ed situation. Highly, highly irregular for the council to ask such questions. Jim is a good man. He'd be a good fit. Nobody can fill the shoes of Joe Bosco. He was a tremendous giant in the town. However, Jim will do a good job. He's a good man. I sincerely hope that you guys would consider him for the position. That's it for that. Second, I'd also like to know why some of the meetings were taken down on the appeals committee for taxes. It seems like they were not posted. My understanding is that that's part of the rules and part of the charter of the town, that meeting minutes should be posted, and they were, now they're not. And that, again, is concerning, so I respectfully request that they be posted and that nothing could be hidden and everything should be transparent. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Peter Janitis, 3 Farmstead Circle. The January 6th committee down in Washington, D.C. is about to continue their circus in a couple of days. And there were no Republicans allowed to sit on that committee other than the ones that Nancy Pelosi actually picked. Those are the only ones. No other Republicans. Now, that committee has turned into a complete farce. Brings me to the town council now, which is basically, I think, doing the same thing by not picking the Republican town committee choice of who they wanted to sit in Joey's seat. It appears that you want to pick your own. Now, Jim is not a fire-breathing dragon, and you know it. I wish he was, but he's not. The Republican Town Committee, when it had control, if I remember correctly, had the mayor of this town appointed not once, but twice, because you guys wanted him. When I say you, I mean your Democrat Town Committee. You even had somebody who was a fire-breathing dragon. Liz Davis was appointed as somebody to sit on this town council. You got to pick who you wanted. And I resent the fact, as a District 1 person, that you're not doing this. Now, one of you sitting up there said a special election should be held. You know darn well that that's not in the town charter. And the town charter was opened a couple of years ago. Where were you then if you thought special elections should be held? The train station, I truly hope that the credit for getting the train platform built is equally shared, and that this town council doesn't try to take all the credit for it, because this was a long time coming, this project, and it was done by both Democrats and Republicans. Now, finally, two members of the town council that I truly admired was Scott Copen and Joey Bosco. I think there are two people who epitomize what a town councilor should be. And people sitting up there, you should aspire to be somewhat like them. Now, finally, trying to imitate Joey a little bit, sitting over there in the seat I used to sit in, I know you're not going to be happy with what I have about what I'm about to say. But when it comes time to filling my seat, you know who I'm going to vote for. Do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jack, can you come up? Yeah. And then Karen, you can go after.
Jessica Bosco, 74 Town Farm Road. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who is supportive of my father, Joe Bosco. Anyone who sent a prayer, had kind words, or was just simply there for him. It meant a lot to my family, and we will forever be grateful. I know my father felt truly humbled and blessed to see the outpouring of well wishes and friends. Now I'd like to also address things my family and I don't appreciate, nor like to find in forums or discussions. The issue of why my father didn't step down. I'd like to use this time so that no further discussion is made nor needed, and hopefully we don't have to constantly see reminders of him trying to remain a loyal councilman while also having the toughest battle he'd face. My father did not step down because we had full faith he would be coming back. My father loved Enfield and loved being a councilman. None of us were aware of the way everything would turn out. Even while sick, my father did his best to do what was needed for the title. I'd also like to state that we see everyone make comments about what my father would or wouldn't do. Please just stop. At the end of the day, no one knew my father. He had his integrity, respect, and a passion for what he believed in. That's what he made decisions based on, and only he knew what those would be. So I'd like to say I'm sorry for the predicament you've all landed in, but respectfully, I will not. The loss of my father was devastating, and whatever inconvenience you feel is incomparable to what we deal with every day and what we have dealt with. So once again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts to the people who see compassion and not inconvenience. And as a last thing to add, my family supports Jim Nasuda. He was well respected by my father, and we believed he's most like him and would serve the town with the same honesty and integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Karen.
Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street.
I am here tonight as a private citizen. As you may or may not know, I am the chair of the Agricultural Commission, and as a member, I was acutely aware of the issues our farming community was facing, considering the recent property reevaluation process by the assessor. The commission nor the farmers did not come before the town council when the new valuations were issued. The commission brought in Joan Nichols from the Connecticut Farm Bureau to discuss the Public Act 490 program for farmers, and all of you were aware of the meeting, and some of you came. The commission offered all of the council members books on the laws and implementation of Public Act 490. Some of you have read the document, some have not. We know the nonprofits came before the council publicly and individually, and they were, for the most part, reevaluated and did not need to go through the process of the appeal, the assessment appeal. Farmers were assured that they should contact the assessor for another look at their valuations. This was only successful with a few and very detrimental to others. Some said after their meeting, their numbers were increased, not decreased. They were not pleasant meetings. To go before any government board or commission is intimidating to the average citizen. The Board of Assessment Appeals is no different. It is my understanding that there were many more appeals this year than previous years. To have a member of the tax assessor's office sitting behind you and recording your every comment while you discuss the unfairness of your assessment is also highly intimidating. From what I have reviewed, it appears the board made careful and factual decisions on the appeals. I have read the Board of Assessment Appeals report on decisions of appeals and assessments heard in April 22 and decided in May 2022. This report was for some reason removed from the town's website after being posted as part of the minutes of the meeting of May 28th. I find the report comprehensive and very enlightening, and am appalled by the behavior our citizens had to endure from the tax assessor's office. Could someone please inform staff that we don't do business this way? We don't expect staff to bully or intimidate our citizens. We don't expect staff to conduct themselves in a manner mentioned on page 13 of that report. I'm embarrassed as to how our farmers and everyday taxpayers were treated by the assessor, and you should be too. I, for one, do not want to see any citizen have to have this same experience repeated next tax year. I am hoping the council will agree and do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you have your hand up? Come on up. Thanks. Walter, you can go after.
Evening. Art Mullen, 80 Mullen Road. I'm here to report on See Something, Say Something. But I'd like to start off with some good news. Once or twice a year, I seem to interact with Colleen Reedy, my go-to person in the town hall, and Don Nunes, Director of Public Works, and Chief Fox. And if these folks don't immediately answer my telephone call, they always call me back in minutes. Great service. These folks have always treated me with respect, and I consider them to be true professionals and positive assets to the town of Enfield. I thought I'd share that with you guys. Now back to See Something, Say Something. And in this regard, I have many details I could share with you, but for the sake of time, I'll hit the high points, and you can get back to me if you'd like to know more. I received my 2022 tax assessment statement. It included changes that didn't make sense. So I called the new assessor, Tom Helms. He didn't answer my call. I left a message. He didn't call me back. Next, my sister called me to say that she received the 2022 tax assessment statement for the farmland the Mullen family owns, and it included changes that didn't make sense. Next, I attended an Ag Committee-sponsored meeting with presentations by the Connecticut Farm Bureau and an assessment lawyer. Here I learned that Helms had a reputation for going after farmers, converting their Public Act 490 farmland into other higher tax usage. He has done this in 3 towns. He's been told that it is a bad practice, and in many cases it's against the law, but still he does it. I researched Helms' past in the towns of Wallingford and Bloomfield, and I could find no support for him or his service in those towns. Rather, everyone I spoke to questioned his qualifications and integrity. Based on this information, I decided that I needed to appeal my 2022 tax assessment. I went to an appeal board meeting to review my cases. I was sworn in and started to speak when I was asked to stop. The board wanted to tell me that I could record my session. But they wanted to create an open, relaxed environment, and as such, the board would not be recording my session. They went on to say that they did not want the assessor to be in attendance and or to record the session, as that might make me feel uncomfortable or intimidated. It was nice. It made sense to me. I felt good about that, you know? But then they went on and said, by the way, the assessor is sitting right behind you, and he's recording your session. I was like, what? And I turned around, and there in the shadows, I hadn't noticed the guy on the way when I came in, was an individual. I was puzzled, and I believe I said so, but this individual never introduced himself or said anything, but rather gave me what I would describe as a stare down. You know, just stared at me, like, very unusual. So why was Helms there, and why did he sit behind me, and why didn't he speak, and why was he recording my session? It was creepy. It still felt unsettling to me the next morning, so under the see something, say something policy, I called Chief Fox and I reported this incident to him. I thought it was intimidating. Going back to my appeals, I built my 1,512 square foot house in 2007, and nothing has changed, not even the curtains, since 2007. So I was surprised to see that my living space was increased in the 2022 reevaluation by plus 60%, from 1,512 square feet to 2,478 square feet. How did this happen? How did Helms add 966 square feet to my house? I still don't know, but I'm glad I caught it. Regarding the Mullen family farmland, Helms took it out of PA 490 and reclassified it with an increase of value of over $150,000. As the title and usage of this property has not changed under PA 490 rules and regulations, this property cannot be reclassified. This type of change is exactly what the Connecticut Farm Bureau and the assessment lawyer said were the types of actions Helms was infamously known for. The appeal board sent me a statement last week, and I learned that Helms' bogus changes to our properties have been struck down and deleted, so we are now okay. But I've heard some other bad stories, and I suggest you check with other farmers and older folks and maybe look into the Goodwill Industries situation. After feeling like I wasted a lot of time on these assessment issues that should have never taken place, I called my childhood friend who advises me on legal matters. I related all of this to him, and when I got done, I told him I felt I had gone through something sketchy. And I asked him if he thought Helms was professional, and he laughed. And I said, what's so funny? And he chuckled and said that he thought I would have asked if Helms was sleazy or unethical. And I said, okay, was Helms sleazy or unethical? At that point, he stopped chuckling and said he thinks the real questions are, what was what Helms is doing criminal? And who is letting Helms get away with this stuff on Enfield citizens? And he told me I need to report this to the town of Enfield authorities. So under see something, say something, that is my report, and my opinion is please keep the town of Enfield professionals and get rid of the bad apples. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Walter J. Cruzel, 21 Charnley Road. The Board of Assessment Appeals. I did put in a claim. I sat down with the board. It was very professional, and they did warn me that it was being recorded. That was not allowed, but it was still being recorded. And I'm just going to say everything Karen said. I'm just going to second that because it's right on the money. I am part of the Notify on the town website where I get all the minutes and every email of all the meeting minutes and everything. And I do read them because when I was back on the Board of Ed, I had to read those, so I just keep reading them. So, and I did notice how those got pulled. There was a meeting we had with FOI Commission brought, one of the previous town attorneys brought in the FOI commissioner back maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And we had a public meeting at the Senior Center, which was taped on ETV. If ETV's listening, maybe they should go back in the archive and play that during your dead air between meetings. Find that and play that. It's very informative how meetings are go along, how minutes have to be posted, and it's all, he spelled out all that. It's very informative, and that's something you guys should look up on ETV's YouTube channel. It was about 5 years ago they taped the meeting in the Senior Center. I was there. A few other people were there. A lot of people were there, and it was very informative. So again, I'm just going to second what Karen said. It was spot on. I'm not going to repeat myself. Now, just one quickie on Mr. Nasuda for filling Mr. Bosco's seat. When he was back on the high school building committee, he trained us for OSHA 10 requirements. No charge to the town. It was a Saturday. We gave up 2 Saturdays. That's right. It was 5 hours on one Saturday and 5 hours on another. Got us all these cards. I laminated mine. I keep it in my wallet. He is a very dedicated, and working with him on the Enfield High Building Committee, it was a non-political committee. We worked together as a team of, I believe, 13, and got a beautiful high school out of it. So it's a no-brainer that he should be appointed for that seat tonight. Thank you. Oh, God bless America, and God help Enfield, Connecticut.
Thank you, Walter. Anybody else wish to speak for the first time? Anybody else for the first time? Anybody wish to speak for the second time? Anybody else? No. Oh, okay. Come on up, Peter. I saw you, Peter. You get 3 minutes this time.
Peter Janitis, 3 Farmstead Circle, and I would just like to thank the young lady who suggested that we hang the flag. I think that's a great idea. I would also challenge the town council and the school board over the next course of the next maybe month and a half or 2 months that each of you just give a little tidbit about the history of Enfield. Look it up, get in some of the old books, and I don't know what you guys know, but I used to teach a unit on it, and there's a lot of pretty cool things that happen in this town. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for the second time? Anybody else? Peter for a third time? Okay. I declare closing public communications. Thank you very much, everybody. Next, number 8, Counselor Communications and Petitions. Anybody? Oh, we can go. We'll start over here. Counselor Pisner.
Okay, I got a few things. So first, I would like to thank everybody who attended our day of reflection with myself and Councilor Mangini. We chose the hottest day of the year so far, and we were a small crowd, but I do believe it went over well. We had 5 spiritual leaders from Enfield that was there, as well as a few residents. A special thank you to my friend and Enfield School Board member Gina Cree, who shared her beautiful voice and led us in the song America. And also to Liz Swisak, our poet laureate here in Enfield. She wrote a beautiful poem and she read it. I'd like to thank Lucian Lefebvre, Tony Torres, and the entire Memorial Day Parade Committee for a great day. I think it was well attended, and once again, Enfield showed their respect for our veterans. And for those of you who couldn't make it, I believe it is going to be streaming on ETV. Mrs. Lee, your flag idea is wonderful. I said it before and I'll say it again. We need a policy on this. I've been getting a lot of people calling me and asking me about different flags, and we need to get a policy done. There are towns that have some really, really great policies. I know this one was done by resolution, but, you know, it gives residents an avenue, but they need to know what the parameters are going to be. So I am going to continue to voice my opinion loud and clear to get a committee together, and let's look at what parameters we need to set. And lastly, I mean, the Board of Assessment Appeals. I have to say I did email our town manager when I went on to reread the report, and it was gone because I had pulled it up on Thursday to read it, went back on Friday and it was gone. And I did email her. So I'm expecting that we will get some kind of an answer. But as a counselor, I apologize to anybody who was put through anything that they felt uncomfortable or sketchy, because that's not what Enfield is. So I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mangini?
Thank you. First, I would like to address the nice lady who spoke, a little bit of history on our Revolutionary War heroes. As a member of the DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution, I am extremely interested in your pine tree flag. So perhaps I can connect with you at some point. We will be having a float in the parade. We do meet monthly. This is not an advertisement, by the way, but I'm just really excited. My relative, one of my relatives, Eliphalet Worthington, did march from New Haven, Connecticut, through Enfield up to Boston, 1775, I believe, and he was a recipient of a pension. I think it was 35 cents. But the fact is that Enfield, to your point, is and always has been very patriotic. So thank you again for your, background of the history. There's so much history here, and I'm really excited about the parade. And I do want to mention that we were honored to have the presence of our Connecticut delegation come to town. So I think it was last Thursday, where they announced that we're going to get a little over $13 million for the train platform station project. We had Murphy, we had Blumenthal, we had Courtney, and our governor came up as well. So this was really exciting news that, most certainly needs to be shared with our citizens of Enfield, something positive to look forward to. And I will save my report on the 4th of July for special committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other counselors? Counselor Hopkins?
Thank you. I just piggybacking off of what Councilor Mangini said, I think it's really important to recognize all the work that was put in to get that train station funding here. So there's been many years, probably too many years. I think Representative Courtney described it as like Frodo from Lord of the Rings taking the ring to the mountain. Too long, but great job to everybody who worked on that from both parties. It is not a partisan thing. It's incredibly important. Two other things. The request for some interesting Enfield history. We had a great Memorial Day parade. Thanks to everyone who organized that, participated in it. But if anybody didn't know, the first recipient of what would become the Purple Heart Medal was from Enfield. Elijah Churchill in 1782 received a medal designed by George Washington called then the Badge of Merit, but would become the Purple Heart. So fun fact, he did end up moving to Massachusetts, but we won't hold that against him. Thirdly, through to the town manager, through the deputy mayor, I would like maybe some more information about the Board of Assessment Appeals situation. I'm hopeful you'll brief the council on that. But in particular, were those minutes taken down? And if so, why? It would be maybe helpful to understand that thought process.
All set? Thank you. Councilor Ludwig.
So a couple things. This may be through the mayor, the town manager, to maybe DPW and the subcommittee. Two things. Willstar, my understanding, Willstar Road is on one of the roads to be fixed through the referendum. My understanding, the water companies are going to do some work. They use a lot of times when these roads are going to be fixed, the water company, but they don't do the nicest job. I mean, the road's in tough shape to begin with, and we've done this years past where instead of having, so not knowing when Willstar is going to be on the schedule, and again, I know the schedule is evolving, so I'm not asking it. But whenever it is that we simply maybe work with the water company to see if they will pay us the money instead of doing the work, ripping up the road, and if Willstar's not going to be on for a couple of years, makes an even worse situation worse. And I think we did it Campania Road about 4 or 5 years ago where they actually paid us. We ended up taking that money and, instead of ripping up the road, like again, Swart Ave, for example, unfortunately not in a referendum, but the water company went there and ruined that road. So just a suggestion, maybe we can go to DPW. Same thing, I got a call from a resident, again, DPW, and I'm sure I'm going to ruin it, but so first 260 pounds, it's $10 if you go to the transfer station. So the question is, I know we're doing the work to update the dump, or the transfer station, excuse my language. Can we have maybe if the part is a counter so someone can actually see Because I think the concern is if they don't know, it's like, so he had like, say, 265 pounds. So he went in, paid his $10, he had to pay his $10 for the first 260. In my understanding, it goes back to zero, even if it's 5. So he paid close to $30. So maybe we can reference maybe a flat fee after 260 to make it simpler for people. Maybe, like, I know we have a flat fee. Just a suggestion for the DPW's, subgroup. All due respect to Mr. Janitis, Mr. Quinlan had the best Enfield history class at Fermi back in the day.
You didn't have that.
And again, I think I'll end it on these two. Again, I know there's a lot of information on the Board Assessment Appeals, the assessor. I've been saying this since February. We really do need to get a handle on what has happened. So take a step back. Again, is this the way we want to serve our residents? The larger question here of, I'm not placing blame, I'm not going after anybody, because I know there's always multiple sides to a story. However, when there's smoke, there's fire. And I think we can't just move on. I mean, I know there's been some improvements, but there's been so much back and forth, starting with the farmers. And the question really, when it comes to government, when things happen, and again, this is my basic philosophy, the people who had the courage to appeal and to say something, good for them. What about all the folks who didn't? We're already concerned about losing farmland throughout the town. And some of those assessments, and I've seen them because they handed them to me when I went on to meet them at their farm, they were paying roughly $500 in taxes to go to $17,000 in taxes. If they didn't know if they didn't know they could appeal, if those people sell those farms, now what does that turn into? Industrial land. So I mean, there's a larger issue beyond whether, again, who to blame, and if there's some customer service issues. I'm not going to get into, but I think this is an issue that has to be addressed. I think I really do, we have to audit the system. And no human being should have the power, subjective power that we've seen be used, where you can bankrupt somebody over taxes. I'm sorry, I don't care what you believe, and I don't care what party you're in, but to have that kind of subjectivity needs to be talked about in public so people understand it. So, and again, that's, I think, the larger issue. And maybe it's come kind of the perfect storm of a reval, everything else, new people coming to town that haven't been here. But I'm not trying to place blame on anybody. But clearly we have to do something and look into this to fix it. So again, we don't want, I am saying this as someone, as a manager, as someone in position of power, you don't want people coming up talking about employees the way people are talking about. So again, in fairness, so we have to address it. And I'm not placing blame at all. I'm saying, but we have to address it. And we have to get to the bottom of it so we can show the public we're listening. And maybe we can work through this where we're not having people come up here and making some comments that, again, I know are uncomfortable, and we certainly don't want to have any of our employees being talked about that way. So I think we have to do something. We have to look at it. I really think we need to audit the system. How many clicks were made? How many, of the audit? We should be able to do it through the system. My understanding, you can. So again, I've seen some cards where you had a barn that was 25 years old. It's depreciated 80%, but it was listed at an A level, meaning it was worth the highest value. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think there is fire there. We need to look at it. We need to be professional. All right, we got to be professional. Enough of let's not call each other names. Let's be professional. This can be addressed, and there is larger issues other than against the appeals process. It also turns into the 490, and again, it was pretty straightforward when we went to that meeting. I know you, to your credit, you were there as the town manager, and 2 reasons why you lose your 490 status. Yet we're losing their 490 status on other reasons, and that's not right. That needs to be looked at. And again, to your credit, you were there. So, I know you heard the presentation, so I don't want to, I know you're going to address it. So again, for me, I'm more concerned of we have to fix this, and maybe everybody's culpable. And as we peel the onion, we'll figure out, what's the right way to go. So again, the last thing we need right now is more distrust. There's enough distrust in this country. Everything is to pit one person against another. Everything is, you're this, you're that. Everything's labeled. We got to at least take a step back, solve it, figure it out. And then if there's accountability needs to be had. So I think we do need to address it. I think we need to be professional about it. I don't want to go on a soapbox, but I think, hearing all this, and I've been getting calls since February. I think there is something here, and we have to look into it. So again, appreciate your listening to me, and but again, I don't want to. I want to let's take it the right way, the professional way, and solve the problem. So again, we don't have this anymore. And I had one other thing, and I apologize. I know I'm doing a lot of talking. Oh, sorry. Again, through the deputy mayor to the attorney, I'd like us to look at a resolution to pull officially out of the emergency. It's time to be in a non-emergency status. I mean, I think we need to be official about it, and I think we need to pull out of it. And again, I think to remind people where the Constitution state, the purpose of the Constitution is to limit the government's power, not to tell you what your rights are. So I think it's time we look at making a resolution, whether it be for July or August, to pull out of this and go back, again, council, manager, form of government. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Anybody else? Attorney, just called you attorney at Despard. Congratulations. Councillor Despard and then Councillor Santa.
Thank you, Ms. Deputy Mayor. So I just wanted to add in my history, Enfield history. I just learned this the other day at the train stop unveiling from Chief Safraza that during 1948, during Harry Truman's whistle stop tour, he stopped here in the old Enfield train station. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then I also just want to echo what a lot of people are saying. I have some concerns about the behavior of our assessor's office, and I think we definitely need some form of investigation into that. I don't think it's how we want to be treating our tax-paying citizens. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Santinella?
Yeah, I just, I was not able to join everybody here on Thursday. As you know, that notice came out at 5:30 and I was out of town. So I did want to just take a minute to reiterate how exciting it is to see this train platform finally coming into my district, and I know that this is going to be a significant game changer that I had absolutely nothing to do with, and I wanted to just take this minute to say thank you on behalf of the people that live there and everybody who put in this hard work, because I know it's been years and years of work, and it is starting to look like Thompsonville is percolating again, and it's very exciting, and I just wanted to acknowledge people's work and say thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Finger?
Thank you. I'd like to thank Danny of Danny's Pizza. He recognized Department of Public Works week last week, gave out some certificates for some grinders or whatever you wanted to get, and I thought that was really, really good of him to do that. A lot of people are going there now. Danny, thank you very much for doing that. I want to thank Councilor Ludwig for taking my storm about Will Star Circle. Thanks, Mike. And I'm 100% behind Mike about that emergency act. It needs to come out. That's got to go. The other thing too I have is, and I just want to apologize to everybody about the prayer. My mind's going nuts right now. So. And through the mayor to the manager, I haven't heard anything about the sidewalk crossing things I asked about before. If I can get an update on that. I heard some rumors about them that they're still good, and they're good for 25 years. So maybe before school starts next year, we can find a place for them. Again, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor communications? Moving on to item 9, Town Manager Report and Communications.
So there's a couple of pieces of business that I'd like to go over first. One is there are a lot of people in the community that received a communication on Friday or over the weekend from ComStar, which is the billing agent for the Enfield EMS, reporting that there may have been a security breach with people's personal data. So they went back almost 10 years for anybody that has used our ambulance service. Those notices included going to people who are deceased, to probate agents, to everybody. So at this point, there is no indication that Enfield data was actually breached, but this is best practice that they notice everybody, and within that letter that everybody received, you have the opportunity to sign up for credit rating monitoring as well as identity theft monitoring for free on behalf of Comstar. So for anyone who may be concerned about this, please take advantage of those services because they're very good to have. It doesn't cost anything to sign up, and it'll just be an added peace of mind for those who might be a little discomforted by that letter. The second thing is a lot of our focus and thoughts have been with the community in Texas after that devastating school shooting. And I wanted to reassure our viewing audience, the public, and especially the town council that we have behind the scenes been having very diligent conversations between the office of the school superintendent, our office, as well as the police department about everything that happens here in Enfield. I'm sure all of you can understand that a lot of the process and procedures that have been put in place are not anything that anybody wants to talk about in public in order to tip our hand as to the security measures that are already in place. But speaking of the work that has been done after Sandy Hook, Enfield was one of the leaders in a lot of the work that surrounded physical plant upgrades, hardening targets, and doing a lot to really have those hard conversations with staff and teachers and parents and families, and that continues. So over the course of the last 10 to 14 days, a lot of discreet yet very robust work has been done within the schools, and we do have scheduled for this week a joint committee with the Board of Education on security issues. So some of those concerns, issues, and how we move forward will be discussed at that meeting as well. In terms of the pandemic, at the 2-year mark of the resolution or the act that was done by my predecessor, I did call it back. So we are now officially out of emergency orders, and I am just going to make sure that tomorrow, I need to double check because I don't see it in my emails that I just looked quickly, that we are officially filed with the Department of Emergency Management, because once you pull back, which is the role of the chief executive, I made that decision on the anniversary of which it was signed. And I believed at that point with the infection rates that we were probably going to be okay. As you can see, in the last 6 to 8 weeks, we've had some fluctuation as well. We are now in kind of an outdoors type environment, so some of this has been muted. I do encourage everyone to take advantage of what the town is doing at the senior center. Boosters are being offered through the month of June, and we really have to do all we can to bolster immunity, but also awareness that this is probably going to be with us for a while. And the more that we can do to protect our citizenry by offering boosters, vaccines, first or second, and just having a knowledge of the causation issues and how we can go about continuing to move forward with our lives and our community activities to the best of our ability amongst this is important. And fourth, in terms of the Board of Assessment Appeals, there are a lot of moving pieces with this topic. As all of you know, we have a new assessor who assumed his duties last June. That was approximately weeks before the revaluation process launched. It is also the year of quadrennial reports, which were due in November. That only happens, as by the name, every 4 years. So every 20 years, the reval and the quadrennial coincides, which makes an additional amount of work for the assessors and tax collector's office. Coming into Enfield at the end of December, I was immediately made aware of some of the issues with the new technology, with some of the differences of how this was being done, as well as the revaluation shifts. A revaluation shift, as we saw in Enfield, with residential taking the majority of it and commercial seeing a very low increase, really shifted the tax burden from one taxpaying entity to the other. So there are already undercurrents that this was going to be a very difficult revaluation to manage. Then we had the nonprofit scenarios, we had the 490 issues, and frankly, the assessors and tax collector's office is understaffed for the amount of work that they do in comparison with other towns and what has to get done in that period of time, many of which are statutory deadlines. We were on extension for the grand list. We're on extension for revaluation, and we were just fined last week due to the fact that some of the work had not been done by the BAA in a timely fashion, and everything got pushed into May. So we owe the state of Connecticut $200 due to the fact that all of this has been very difficult. That being said, we've been monitoring the process. I have tried to, based on hearing the concerns tonight, I have pulled up some of the emails and reports that I have, and just a quick snapshot. And I do think that it would probably be good for all of you to see the full report. And I'm going to get back to that because that is linked to the minutes. But originally, based on the most recent worksheet that I have, so I am going to add that as a disclaimer, 77 properties were removed from PA 490. Many of them were returned. 13 were returned as strictly 490 status. 10 were noted as open space. 14 had no applications on file in the assessor's office. 4 of them, the owner agreed that they didn't belong. 11 did not have an updated application or a forester's report after a transfer of property. 25 were changed because of a change of use. Some of those had a commercial business on the property. 1 encroached on a neighbor's property. And 1 was an owner lost a portion due to that, and they were aware of the situation. So out of that, there were 64 accounts that were left out of the original 243 appeals. Of those, 28 were either open space, no application, or the owner agreed with the change. I then went to my spreadsheet that was supplied to me by the office, and I looked at the comments for the report reads, there's before review, then there was the PA 490 acres after the second review, and then there was the class after a second review. Here are some of the comments following the reviews. 1 parcel was removed, residential house, no farming, change of use. Another one, no application, not hayed or tilled, commercial land, does not qualify without an application, no application made. Another one, application was for 21.5 acres. There was a wooded parcel claimed on last update. There is no farming. Wooded lot, no application. Wooded parcel, no farming. Another one, change of use, part of yard now being used for landscaping business. Another one, open space classification, no new application with the land sale that occurred in 1995, nothing in record. Another one, no updated forester's report or application after transfer, no phone call returned from owner. Another one, apartment building, change of use, no farming, no new application with sale. Change of use, personal horse, no other animals. Talked with owner, no longer raises sheep. Talked with owner, agrees with removal. No application. No qualifying application with 2015 sale or property acreage change. No application after land sale. Would not qualify with application, personal horse. Application for pasture. Has completed application, has not filed since 2012 sale. Owner states personal horse. Used to have business but no longer does. Change of use. Another one. Was planting Christmas trees, gave up on idea. Now a landscape company is run out of back building. No longer farming, residential house. Open space classification, Hazardville water pump house. No application after 2014 sale. Should be entirely removed but left partially in. Wooded lot, has application. Vacant residential parcel, asked for income info, none given. No orchard on land, asked for income, none provided. No tillable, no farm, asked for income, none provided. Not a commercial farm any longer, change of use. So just as an example, these are some of the processes that were gone through. So while I respect the citizenry and their concern and potential discomfort on this process, it was a difficult one all the way across. There's always multiple sides to a story, as Councilor Ludwig referenced. This one doesn't have multiple sides. It has dozens of sides. And whereas it affects directly people's livelihoods and their property, we take it with the utmost seriousness. However, the record speaks differently. There is a lot of work that needs to be done to bring these files back into compliance. And I believe, because I sat in on a lot of those meetings, that those conversations took place. A lot of work was done. A lot of people understood. A lot of people didn't understand because of the complexity of this law, the changes that have been made, the family dynamics that are involved with multiple people owning parcels. And I will say that we worked with anybody who made an appointment, who came in and had conversations. They may not have approved of all of the final recommendations, and they went to the BAA. That is their right. The BAA is its own entity as defined by state law, which we recognize. However, when you read the BAA handbook, not only does it discuss the independence of the entity, it also stresses the fact that it is extremely important that they have a working relationship with the assessor. That did not occur. So all of these different pieces have now amalgamated into either a special meeting draft of minutes dated May 28th or the May 28th report on decisions, which was a 62-page document. We have competing documents that were posted. Some of it was handwritten, some of it was penciled in, some of it is hard to discern and understand. I made the decision to pull both from the website so that we could gain clarity as to what document supersedes each, which one has the most reference, and which one, frankly, is correct. The minutes continue to be contained and are available for public inspection in the town clerk's office. That is according to FOI law. It will, when worked out, be put back on the website for public. But right now, I'm not sure what we're disseminating to the public, and until we can get a handle on the report and actually put it in a shape and form that is legible and readable, we're not going to have it on the website, because as you can see tonight, it's only spawning more conspiracy issues, concerns, and belief that there was issues that were dealt with within this process that might not have been appropriate. So again, it's a small microcosm explanation because I wasn't really prepared to deal with it tonight, but that's kind of where we stand with this. And I will also note that we've noticed early on that there's been a couple of areas in which the BAA extended its authority that they may not have had authority to do so. Section 12-111 is one of them, and there is another involving the open space ordinance, which I really believe Enfield should adopt, but we have not adopted to date. So those things are all operating in the background. It's unfortunate that we have these types of conversations in public forum concerning public servants. I think a lot of what has happened here is growing pains in terms of moving from one assessor and that style to another one. Customer service is always important, and I believe that that office has made great strides in the last 6 months as to what I believe the standard should be for customer service. But it's a two-way street, and I don't think, nor will I tolerate anybody casting aspersions on any town employee for any reason in a public forum without having that employee here or their advocates to speak for that themselves, because again, there's always multiple sides to a story. And I don't think that tonight it was accurately represented on both sides. So we can get you a report and we will try to codify it in such a way that it's easy to follow. I know that many of you have been following this issue, so it should be pretty easy. The good news is we don't have to do this for another 5 years. And between now and then, we'll have a lot of opportunities to ensure that what happened and this type of growing pains in terms of new technology, opportunities to ensure that everything is put on the grand list is done in a way that everybody's comfortable with. And please understand, there are people that are paying their fair share of taxes. Those people feel that everybody else should be paying their fair share of taxes. What that fair share of taxes is based first here on taxation, but also on the opportunity to appeal, which is the democratic way. So we're going to make sure that everything is on that grand list in order to have the most fair foundation for all Enfield residents and businesses, and from there we can have a conversation about methodology.
Thank you. Anything else under town manager's report? Any questions for the town manager?
And I agree that that conversation has to happen. I can't wait a year from now. I'm saying I agree with you. We have to be able to let people tell their story, both sides. I agree, and that's why it needs to be some sort of special meeting. Again, that's the problem. If it festers, more conspiracy theories are going to come out. It has to be addressed, and we have to be adults and professional about it. I agree with you. But you can't wait 6 months from now. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I know everyone's busy. I'm just saying
Well,
this is
Councilor
something.
Ludwig, the report was filed 8
No,
days ago.
I'm not even talking about the minute. The minutes to me are sort of, again, it's like, again, it's the distraction. It's the anger, the underlying anger between the public and the assessor. We need to figure that out. Minutes, again, I'm not, whatever. It's that's the issue for me. Because you can't have, again, as a governing body, a lot of your folks all upset, and then, that's got to be addressed. The minutes, again, I'll let the folks who get paid to do that handle it. That's the issue to me, and we have to address it. That's just my opinion. And the other thing, and I apologize, because I know if you already did this, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, but if you pulled out of the emergency and you sent us something and I missed it, full disclosure, I probably did, but if you didn't, that needs to be posted on I don't do Facebook, but, I mean, that's a big deal. And these are big deals. I mean, we're moving forward, and if you made a decision, congratulate you to do it, because it's right. In my opinion, it's the right decision, and it's what we should be doing. But we need to let people know. I mean, look, we're moving forward, and that's a good decision, and I appreciate you making it. And I think that needs to be made public, because in my opinion, I'm sorry, maybe folks disagree with me, but that's a good decision that we are now finally moving forward. And I know it's just a declaration or whatever, but it's an important one. And remind people, again, as a Constitution state, it's there to limit government's authority. That's what people got to remember what the Constitution means. And that's why I appreciate you doing that. And if you already sent me, and I apologize, I missed the email, which I could have. But if you haven't, please post that. That's, in my opinion, that's important. And I appreciate you making that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the town manager's office? Okay. Moving along to report of special committees of the council. Councilman.
Just very briefly, the 4th of July committee has been meeting on a regular basis, and the dedication and the hard work of that group should be recognized. And I just want to throw out, to the public how much dedication that committee has, and how much hard work they put forward starting in January of the year, and not ending until after the actual 4th of July celebration. So I hope everyone, appreciates their hard work and does come out and celebrate. It's going to be a great parade. It's going to be a great celebration, and we're all looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other special reports of committees? I will do a very brief one of the JFK committee update. We met on the 2nd, so just last week, or what's today? Monday, so last week. So they are working on the former admin and library wing, which is in Area E, which is the World Language Room, Coordinator's Office, Innovation Labs, and Media Centers. And once summer hits, they will be able to take over the remainder of the areas that they have not worked on, and hopefully we'll have everything turned over for the start of next year. And if the council is interested, we can have the committee come in and do sort of a final run through and sort of a presentation, and it's a beautiful building, so I'm really excited about that. Okay, item 11, unfinished business, there is none. Moving on to item 12, new business, there is none. Consent agenda 12A. Items 1 through 7 we will do all together, so if there's...
Sorry, I apologize but I can't support 5 through 7 because I voted against it in the budget, and so I'm going to be, 4 through 7, so just to be consistent. I'm fine with 1 through 3, but just for the record, I'll be voting no.
Okay, are you asking for them to be removed from the consent agenda?
Just letting you know,
okay.
because I don't want to just be up front with you, that's all.
So items 1 through 7 on the consent agenda, is there any questions or discussions?
He does have to remove them if he's going to vote no, because otherwise the consent calendar is voted on as a body.
Correct, but if consent agenda as a whole passes, he would just have to vote no on the whole 1 through 7, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess
all right.
that's
Just wanted
up
be
to
upfront.
you.
Yeah, that's fine with me, whatever, as long as you folks are okay with it.
He'll show as a no vote.
Right.
1, 2, and 3.
Right, so I guess that's up to you on what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm fine, I'll vote no, yep.
Okay.
But I do have quick question. I'll be very quick.
Counselor Ludwig.
Sorry, so
Time.
fiscal, I want people to understand, I just want to make sure, so in the resolution, it says 2022 and 2023. Currently, we're in fiscal, our budget runs 7/1 to 7/1, so 7/1, 2021 to 6/30, 2022. So by how it's showed, the new budget will kick in 7/1/22 to 6/30/23. So I want to make sure I'm clear. Technically, when one of the budgets when it says 22, does that mean you want the money available today or after 7/1? And then 23, does that mean, technically that money's available on 7/1 because it's in our budget. So I just want to make sure, I know fiscal year versus budget year, but I have to admit, that's confusing. And when you say 23, actually, that starts on 7/1. Am I misunderstanding it? And please correct
That's
me if I'm
correct.
wrong.
We now have a budget for 7/1 for fiscal year 2023. The adjustments that will be made will be posted effective 7/1/2022 for fiscal year 2023. There were other adjustments, and those are because of the referendum requirements of some of these projects were needed to be split over. We appropriate funds over 2 years.
Well, right, but if the funds aren't appropriated today, and it's 7/2/22, it's in the same budget year as what we're doing. So in theory, you're over allocating what the charter allows. So so that's what I'm saying. When it says 22, that means it has to be available today because that budget ends.
The 2022, the ones will be available as of when you appropriate them.
So it'll be
those
today.
funds.
That's what I want to be clear, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, because that's what I'm saying. If it was available on 7/1, then you're over allocating based on the charter.
Right.
That's all. Perfect.
Right.
Thank you. I'm done. I'll be voting no. Sorry. Appreciate your answer, though. I think it's just clear because again, we do run 7/1 to 7/1. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions on the consent agenda items? Okay, we are going to vote on them as a whole, so all in favor is a raise of hands on consent agenda items 1 through 7. All in favor? What? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I may have missed it, but I didn't hear the motion being made or seconded.
Oh, I thought.
Sorry.
Maybe I missed that.
Okay.
I
Motion
think
to
it
approve
was
the
Counselor
consent agenda.
Ludwig who threw me off. Can I get a motion to approve the consent
Motion to
agenda
approve the
items?
consent agenda.
Thank you. Motion by Counselor Santinella, seconded by Counselor Pisner. So now, all in favor of approving the consent agenda items 1 through 7? 8 in favor, all against, 1. 8 in favor, 1 against, no abstentions. Thank you. I think the last time I did this, I messed up the consent agenda items too, so. All right, moving on to B, appointments, town council appointed. 1, Enfield Beautification Committee. The term of office of Deborah Gaskell expired, and the replacement will be Tanya Hughes until 12/31/24. Now that we changed this, we just have to do, we don't have to do a nomination, right? We just have to do a hand vote? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? 8, and Counselor Despard is absent. So 8 in favor, none against. Item 2, also Enfield Beautification Committee. The term of office of Todd Barcelow expired, and the replacement will be Joanne Lynch until 12/31/2024. Any discussion on that? Sensing none, all in favor, raise a hand. Again, 8 in favor, none against. Counselor Despard is absent. Item 3 remains on the table, I believe. And we go to item 4, the North Central Health District Department Board of Directors. Representative, the office of Don Hunt expires, and replacement will be Dean Gauss until 6/30/2024. Any discussion on that? Oh, sensing none, all in favor? Counselor Despard is back, so it is 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. And number 5 will be North Central Health District. Term of Jason Walsh expires, and I believe he is his own replacement. It is a reappointment. Any discussion on that? Sensing none, all in favor? 9 in favor, none against, no abstentions. Number 6, District 1 Counselor. A vacancy exists for District 1 Counselor. Replacement would be until 11/13/2023. Discussion, if any. Counselor Ludwig.
I'd like to nominate Jim Nasuda for District 1 Counselor.
I'd like to second it. Nomination by Counselor Ludwig of Jim Nasuda and seconded by Counselor Ungary. Any other nominations?
No nomination, I just want to
Okay.
make a comment.
So I have a motion to close nominations.
There's a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to close by Counselor Ludwig, seconded by Counselor Ungary. Discussion? Counselor Mangini?
Yes, I do want to comment. I will be voting no. And the reason I'm voting no is because I think it's very inconsiderate and out of character of this council to put forward a name, we don't even have the application here, by the way, of a person to fill the seat of our dear council friend Joey Bosco in the absence of our mayor, who is the leader of our council. I think it's in poor taste to do this, so I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Counselor Ludwig.
We had no idea, first of all, that Bob was not going to be here, and when the late, great Red Edgar passed away, we appointed Bob within a month. So we've waited within a month, we've waited well over a month. This has nothing to do with Bob not being here. I mean, it's time to, again, fill Counselor Bosco's seat. Has nothing to do with him not being here. And I disagree with that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Counselor Ungary?
Yes, I'd like to say a few words about Jim Nasuda. He is our candidate. He's been a member of this community for 33 years. Some of his credentials: he was in the Connecticut Army National Guard for 10 years, the Wilson Volunteer Department for 10 years, Hazardville Volunteer Department 10 years, Enfield Youth Hockey, he was a director and coach for 8 years, Independent Electrical Contractors of New England Board of Directors and President 11 years. He was the Independent Electrical Contractors nationally and the Northeast Regional Director for 8 years. He was on the Board of Directors of Connecticut Subcontractors Association. He was on the Enfield High School Building Committee. He was an authorized OSHA trainer and has been teaching 20 years in construction industry. He has the values, the integrity, and the honesty that I think Joey Bosco possesses, and I think he is a perfect candidate for this seat.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Counselor Hopkins?
Just as a point of order, so on the motion to close nominations, can we vote on that and then continue our discussion with the actual
Oh, yeah,
vote
I probably
itself?
missed that. I apologize. All in favor of closing nominations? 9 in favor, none against. Thank you. Did you have anything else?
Yes, for discussion on the motion itself, I think it's important to clarify some facts. There were 3 applicants for this position. One of them was recommended by the Republican Town Committee. 2 of them applied on their own. We, as a Democratic caucus, interviewed all 3. I think it's very important to note no one was asked about their religion. That would be a very improper question. And I absolutely agree with Mr. Grande. That would be wrong to do. There were a couple, what you might imagine, politically sensitive questions, and I'll explain why. One of those was, do you believe that Enfield teachers are grooming students? This refers to a particularly pernicious recent conspiracy theory that there is a group of Enfield teachers who are pedophiles and are grooming children, there is no evidence for that. It is a ridiculous thought and very damaging to our school system. There's simply no evidence for that. If there was evidence for that, they would be investigated by Enfield Police or maybe even the state police. There is no evidence of that. So why ask an applicant that? They're not a Board of Education nominee. They are a town councilor. But if someone is willing to engage in this kind of conspiracy thinking that so damages the town, that's concerning. So all three applicants were asked this question. Unfortunately, Mr. Nasuda did not deny that this, this particular issue, did not say this is not a real thing, and that was concerning for me. That is a reason why I can't support him here. The other question was, do you believe the last presidential election was legitimate? Thankfully, all three all three applicants did say yes, and the reason why that was asked, that's a basic foundational tenet of our democracy. If you're going to participate in municipal government, you can't believe the big lie. That is very concerning. But thankfully, everybody answered that well. So for me personally, I liked the third candidate. The second candidate was not somebody who lived in District 1 and not somebody I could support. So here today, I cannot vote for Mr. Nasuda because of that concern. I think it's a pretty easy question to answer. There is no grooming of Enfield children, and it's very concerning that that continues to percolate and circulate around the town. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Desberg?
I just wanted to sort of basically second everything that Councillor Hopkins is saying, but then also to add that I do not believe that these seats belong to political parties. Sure, we are all of a political party, but I think the people of Enfield, I think that they vote in the person, not the party. And so there were 3 people of this party that applied. We interviewed them all. We asked them all the same questions. And the person we are considering right now was the least qualified of the 3. So that is why I will not be voting for him. And I would also like to add that, yes, I do want to go on the record as I think we as a council should explore turning these sort of things into special elections. I think that we need to give more power to the people of Enfield than we do to political parties in Enfield. And that's my piece.
Councillor Finger? Oh, I'm sorry. Maria, you'll go next.
No.
Maria, go.
No, please, you go first.
Somebody go.
I'm going to say a few things. One is I disagree with Councilor Mangini. We don't hold things back because somebody's not here. This council, the councils in the past years that I've attended things, they've voted on things to make things happen in this town. Because Councilor Crisati decided to spend the rest of the day with his family after the wedding. That was his choice. The Republican Party did not know about that. And you can't hold anybody against that. That's not our fault. It's not their fault. And I'm tired of people pointing to everybody about faults. After losing my stepbrother by bond, and listening today and watching the Bosco family and stuff, I was really 100% behind Ashley. But I'm changing my vote tonight to Jim Nasuda.
Councillor Prisoner.
In my opinion, this appointment for filling this vacancy in D1 has taken way too long. But I believe part of it is because the counselor we're replacing is irreplaceable. The reason I am sitting here is because of Joey. He encouraged me to run. And there isn't anybody that's going to fill Joey's shoes. Nobody. He was a man with great integrity, honesty, loyalty, and above all, he served the residents of Enfield without bias. He left politics at the door. He was a simple man who lived a simple life, helping others freely. He loved his family, his friends, and most of all, this town. He worked across party lines for 14 years. Think about that. Think about it. 14 years he gave up grandkids, dinners. I have talked to both majority and minority caucuses, and I've said both. Let's just leave it empty. If we're going to play politics, leave it empty. But we can't. I know we can't. But I also know this, Since I've been involved in politics, which is 5 years in this town, I have seen 6 vacancies on both majority and minority. And they were filled within the time, and they were filled with respect. There was none of this. It is appalling. And I'm tired. Can we just be nice? Just be nice and do what's right for the people in Enfield. I will vote for Jim Nasuda. He is our caucus's nominee. And I stand by it.
Anything else? Councilor Mangini?
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. I've been around the block a few times. We had a candidate for replacement years ago. His name is Tom Arnone. I think people are aware of Mr. Arnone, who's our, representative now. He was blocked. He was blocked. No, we don't want you by the Republican side because he was a Democratic candidate for fulfilling a seat. So Tom had to go out and win his seat, which he very handedly did, number one. Secondly, I was not aware that this issue was going to be coming forth this evening. Again, there is no application in here on your chosen candidate. Yes, we did interview the man. However, I feel like I've been blindsided. Number 3, I stick to my position that we have a missing council person who happens to be the leader of our council, our mayor. And Doug, I'm going to disagree with you wholeheartedly. This is disrespectful, truly. So therefore, I'm standing behind my point. And, to Marie's point of being civil and kind, I have to agree with her. This should not take on a political tone, but it has. So I'm going to be voting no.
Councilor Ungar?
With that being said, I do want to mention that was in 2011, and he wasn't appointed because he just lost the previous election, and it was only a few months earlier. But all the other times when other people had stepped down, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that have stepped down, and we agreed and placed all those people in those seats.
And the point is? I mean, I'm not going to go back and forth.
One time, someone lost an election,
has
and we
the floor,
didn't
though. She has the
enforce it.
floor.
We didn't support him. We've supported all the other candidates that were put forth. The other thing I want to say is that the democratic process, we have a process that we go through. The Republican Town Committee accepts applications. We have an executive committee that goes through all the applications. We come up with a candidate. That's who we put forward, and we respect that process. And that's who we put up was Jim Nasuda. And I think it's an educated person that you ask them any question. If they're not sure of the answer and they can't say matter of fact yes or no, it's just say, I'll look into it. And I was told that was his answer when you asked him about that about the teachers. And I support our teachers. I love our teachers. And if you're backed up against the wall and somebody asks you a question, you don't know the answer, I would say, well, I'll look into it. Hope to God it's no. The certain questions you ask, but I'm saying to hold that against a candidate with all his credentials, he's a stand-up guy, and there's no reason to not support him.
Any other discussion? I will say a very brief few words on this. I'm actually in the middle a little here, physically. Ironically, and where I stand on this. I have to be honest, I've seen a lot of vacancies filled, and this isn't how they are filled. When we've had vacancies, the majority party goes to the minority party and says, give us 3 names. Give us 3 people. We'll tell you, we'll interview them, we'll let you know who we like. That's happened. Agree with it, disagree with it. I've been here, I've seen it. That's fine.
Well, go ahead.
I have the floor. I have the floor, right? I have the floor. So I understand this is very emotionally charged, Mike. I'll let you have the floor afterwards if you'd like it. That's fine. That being said, I have seen the majority party grant names that the minority party has asked for, and I've seen people be rejected. There's a little bit of both. Unfortunately, I don't like the process that's happening right now. That's my issue. We asked for months for more than one candidate. We were told no. 2 other people did apply on their own, but those people were not endorsed by the Republican Town Committee. I have a problem with that too. I am of the opinion that a Republican seat is a Republican seat, and it should be filled by a Republican-endorsed candidate. That being said, again, this process is my issue, and we have asked for months. We are not sitting here today, June 6th, because of one specific person or one party digging in their heels more than another party. We all should be ashamed of ourselves to an extent.
No.
That being said, it is what it is. We will take our vote and we will go from there. Is there any other discussion?
I'm sorry, I'm not going to let
Counselor
it go.
Ludwig.
We had a candidate back in the end of April, and that was our candidate. Again, this 3, we've never interviewed 3 candidates for the 2 open positions that we appointed Bob to, or the Board of Ed. We had one candidate, we interviewed him, we put him on the council. So I don't care what happened in 2011. The last few years, this is what we did. So, and we didn't ask for 3 candidates. Sorry, that is not true. I want to make sure that's on the record.
That's fine. I will respond to that. No, it may not be true that you did, but go ask your previous.
Let's go back 35 years and see what the former Democrat, I mean, come on.
That's fine. Like I said, we all have our own issues. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to say that in the last 10, 11 years, anybody that the Democrats have put up, we have voted in. The other one that Cindy is referring to, I wasn't around then. And also, it's unfortunate that Mayor Crissati is not here, but I have full confidence in our deputy mayor to conduct this meeting and conduct this vote.
Any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
Jim Masuda.
Counselor Hopkins.
Against.
Counselor Ludwig.
Jim Nasuda.
Counselor Mangini.
Against.
Counselor Pisner. Jim Nasuda. Counselor Santinella.
Against.
Counselor Ungary.
Jim Nasuda.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Despard.
Against.
That's 4 in favor, 5 against. No abstentions.
Moving on to C, appointments, town manager appointed, council approved, there is none. Item D, P&Z commission appointed, council approved, there is none. Item E, discussion resolution, request for transfer of funds of other equipment for WPC in the amount of $41,966. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made to water pollution control, other equipment in the amount of $41,996 from water pollution control, shift $4,300, Social Security $16,800, Medicare $3,600, tuition reimbursements $3,000, and construction related services, $14,296. I hereby certify the above stated funds are available as of May 25th, 2022. John Wilcox, Director of Finance, and approved by the Town Manager, Ellen Zaposasu, 5/31/22.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Despard. Any discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
Sorry. 4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary. 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you. Item F, discussion resolution, request for transfer of funds for town attorney legal fees, $100,000. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made to Town Attorney, legal of $100,000 from general funds, employee benefits $100,000. I hereby certify the above stated funds are available as of May 24th, 2022. John Wilcox, Director of Finance, and approved by Ellen Zappo-Sasu on 6/1/22.
So moved.
Sure. By Counselor Mangini,
Second.
second by Counselor Santinella. Any discussion? Counselor Pisner.
Yes, I do. These properties, most of them I understand have been in foreclosure, and Thompson Court we had taken over. What's the status of these properties right now?
I think you have that.
So the 11 Thompson Court is the one that was demolished. And so we are waiting for the documents to be returned in terms of the owner. So that one's been resolved. The structure was just demolished mid-May. So we're waiting for the deed in lieu of foreclosure documents. They were executed. They're on their way back to the town. 15 Debbie Lane. Motion for judgment of foreclosure by sale was granted on May 9th with a sale date set for August 6th. We are doing clean and lean for the lawn in that neighborhood. 1 Knox is going to trial. No date is set as of today. And they are also the subject of a clean and lean in order to keep the grass mowed and the trash picked up on that property. And for 43 Wheeler Drive and 56 College Street, we are awaiting final judgment from the court. No dates have been scheduled.
If I could just chime in on that. So of the 100,000, only approximately 17,500 is for outside counsel associated with all of those foreclosures. The bulk of the 100,000, 75,000 is for Shipman and Goodwin. You may recall we had a subpoena from the federal government a couple of months ago, and it required all hands on deck, the production of 45,000 documents that needed to be reviewed before they were tendered to that government agency, the grand jury. There were 24,000 documents produced. There needed to be privilege logs. That is the bulk of the 100,000. The remainder is 17,500 for the foreclosures. We needed $4,500 for transcripts, and then that will leave an extra 3,000 just as a reserve because we have an arbitration. That's just need a little bit of wiggle room there.
Thank you. It just seemed like a large amount. Thank you.
An unexpected expense. Thank you to the federal government.
Thank you.
That nobody predicted.
Counselor Ludwig.
Just curious on Debbie Lane, I thought we hired another lawyering firm. Didn't we, it was a Green and Company or something, I thought. Is that part of this as well?
Yes, the 17,500 is for Green Law. They did the foreclosures.
So when you mean clean and lean, that house is basically imploded. Is that cleanup been done or no? Is that still?
We are using the clean and lean account on Debbie Lane and Knox Street because of neighbor complaints.
Right, but I'm saying Debbie Lane, that house basically
Oh,
just.
yeah, that's the one with the
Is
back.
that going to be removed or you're just, not yet?
I'm pretty sure that's our next
All right,
demolition.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger,
4.
Counselor Hopkins,
4.
Counselor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary. 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you. Item G, discuss some resolution, request for transfer of funds for information technology grant, $169,000. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made to Information Technology Services, $70,000, Technology Equipment, $79,000, Telephone Services, $20,000, from Information Technology Fund, Miscellaneous State Revenue, $169,000. Certification, I hereby certify the above funds are available as of May 20, 2022. John Wilcox, Director of Finance, and approved by Ellen Zappo-Sasu on 6/1/22.
So moved.
By Counselor Mangini,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Santinella. Any questions or discussions? I don't know, Paul, is this why are you here for this one? Sure. I don't know if anybody has any questions or if you feel the need to give us a summary. It's really up to you. You're here, you might as well come chat with us.
The amount that we're moving is from a grant fund that we get reimbursed for E-rate, and this amount is used to apply, it came in from E-rate, to apply to our network services for education networks, equipment, and also for telecom.
Perfect. Any questions for Paul?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sensing no more discussion, roll call please, Sheila.
Counselor Finger,
Sure, why not? Yes.
Counselor Hopkins,
4.
Counselor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner. 4. Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
And Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
I jumped the gun, sorry. Item H. Discussion resolution to adopt a wage adjustment for the position of the Senior Center Program Coordinator. Resolution to adopt the wage adjustment for the position of the Senior Center Program Coordinator. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter of Enfield Town Council, does hereby adopt the wage adjustment of the following position: Senior Center Program Coordinator, effective June 6, 2022. Salary proposed $50,000. Date submitted May 25, 2022. Submitted by Stephen Belinda.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini. Seconded by Councilor Despard. Steve?
Yes, good evening. So the last thing I wanted to do tonight was come before you and ask for another wage adjustment. Unfortunately, this one was inadvertently admitted right during the budget process. We had a lot of things adding and subtracting, and we thought we addressed all of the wage adjustments for non-union employees at that time. But fortunately, this proposed wage adjustment will not have an impact to the mill rate. It won't even have an impact to the new fiscal budget, because there's some program expenditures that were less than expected, and there's a $75,000 approximately surplus in the library budget, so we can take some of that money and then apply it to this individual. The reason why this is critical is because this is the only employee in the senior center that has some institutional knowledge going back to the accreditation process. The senior center is going through that accreditation process right now. We don't want to lose her wealth of history and knowledge going through this process, and that's why we want to try to retain her. She's thinking and contemplating on retirement, and we hope we don't lose her. But as you know, this is a very difficult market in retaining employees. We are losing our executive secretary, Deb McCarthy, to the state, and God bless her for all the work she's done for the town for 15 years. I want to make a knowledge of that. She's done yeoman's work since my tenure I've been here. And we also got notice Heather McCarthy is leaving too. They're both getting significant pay increases and leaving the town. So it's catch can and trying to keep employees to help us and retain employees. So I'm here asking you to give this one-time wage adjustment so we can retain a key employee for the senior center as this goes through the accreditation process. No impact to the next year's budget because of the surplus we have. No impact to the mill rate.
Any questions or discussions? Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you. So did you say $75,000 is coming from the surplus in the library's budget? Is the rest coming from the general fund, or?
No, the increases that we're proposing is only approximately $10,708. That covers the wage, but the library has approximately $75,000 surplus. I'm not asking.
Gotcha. No, I
to tap into all
understand.
that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Councilor Ludwig.
Just explain, what are we getting accredited for?
The senior center? Apparently, there's either a national or state agency that comes and accreditates senior centers, unbeknownst to me.
What does it mean? What's the accreditation mean?
I guess it gives a standard seal of approval that we meet certain obligations.
Okay. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Certain criteria.
Criteria,
right.
things like that we hold to a model, a national model, a state model.
Right.
And
how often do we go through this? Do you know?
I don't know. I would guess, geez, it's been some time. This is where I could like to tap into my inner
No worries.
Jason.
No, I
really.
just figured, I mean, it's a legitimate reason. Just feel what are we getting
It's
accredited?
not often, and that's why I think the last time was prior to Mary Keller and Jason being employed there.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Moving on to item I, request for transfer of funds for the position of Senior Center Program Coordinator in the amount of $10,718. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. To Senior Center, salaries $9,685, stipends $291, Social Security $601, Medicare $141. From Senior Center, appropriated fund balance $10,718. I hereby certify that the above stated funds are available as of May 27, 2022. John Wilcox, Director of Finance, on May 27th, and approved by Ellen Zappo-Sasu on 6/1/2022.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini. Seconded by Councilor Despard. Any discussion? It's just as exactly what we talked about the prior one. This is the increase. All right, sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig. Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
And Counselor Despard.
4.
8 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Only 6 more to go. Item J, discussion resolution to appoint a firm to audit the fiscal year 2021-2022 financial statements. Resolution to designate an independent auditor to audit the books and accounts of the town of Enfield. Whereas Chapter 3, Section 11 of the Town Charter states the council shall annually designate an independent public accountant or firm to audit the books and accounts of the town. And whereas the Director of Finance solicited and reviewed bids for such services and therefore recommends the appointment of the audit firm Clifton Larson Allen, LLP, to audit the town's accounts for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved that that Enfield Town Council, I read a lot tonight. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby designate the audit firm Clifton Lawson Allen LLP to audit the town's accounts for the fiscal ending June 30th, 2022, in accordance with the above recommendation prepared on May 24th, 2022 by Finance Director's Office.
So moved.
Second.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Despard. Any discussion? Sheila, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig. Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
8 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item K, resolution to authorize the reduction property maintenance on fines for 26 Bigelow Avenue. Can I get a motion to waive the reading, please?
Second.
Thank you. Motion to waive the reading by Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Hopkins. Thank you very much. Do I have to ask if all in favor of that? Yeah, all in favor of waiving the reading? Thank you very much. 9 in favor. Any discussion on this? I believe this was a recommendation coming out of the Blight Review Committee. Councilor Hopkins.
That is correct, but I didn't know if Councilor Ungary wanted to speak on this. I didn't want to just barge in. Thank you. So this is a product of a recent meeting that we had. Thank you. And this is a property which I actually lived across when I first moved here. A lot of overgrown plants, grass, general neglect on the building. It's been accruing some fines for years now, up to $43,000. Our request is to reduce it to 1/3 of that amount, which is $14,362. It's important that these issues get fixed, which they have been. Want to get it back on the market, but also make sure that we understand that our blight fines do exist and have to be abided by. So that's my request. Thank you.
I'm sorry, any questions or any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger,
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Despard.
By the Hazardville Institute Conservancy Society, and 1 by the Opera House Players, and 2 by the Opera House Players. And whereas the following proposals are accepted to the Enfield Town Council within the guidelines for the proposed programs under the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Enfield's 2022 proposed programs applications be submitted to the State of Connecticut Department of Revenue under the provisions of the Neighborhood Assistance Act, and shall consist of the proposals identified in the preceding paragraphs. And the Enfield Town Manager is hereby authorized to submit these applications to the State Department of Revenue and to approve any donations received as a result of this application prepared on May 26, 2022 by the Office of Community Development.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Despard. Any questions? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item M, discussion resolutions for release of mortgage note of 1077 Enfield Street. Resolution to release the lien on 1077 Enfield Street, whereas in March of 1982, the Enfield Town Council authorized the town to execute a promissory note in the amount of $16,000 to the North Central Connecticut Mental Health Systems Incorporated and place a lien on the property located at 1077 Enfield Street. And whereas the town of Enfield placed a lien on the property located at 1077 Enfield Street in 1982, and whereas after extensive physical and accounting research, we found no documentation that a loan was advanced nor that a receivable ever existed to support the lien, and whereas the town of Enfield wishes to release the lien. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby approve release of the lien on the property located at 1077 Enfield Street, prepared on May 12th, 2022 by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Hopkins. I don't know if there's any just brief.
I think the highlights in the resolution say it all, but just for edification purposes, the successor agency to the North Central Connecticut Mental Health Systems is CHR.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
And Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Item M, discussion resolution canceling selected regular meetings of July and August of 2022. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby cancel the regular meetings of the council scheduled for July 18th, 2022 and August 15th, 2022, prepared by the Town Manager's Office on May 18th, 2022.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini. Seconded by Councilor Ungary. Any discussion? For those who may not know, this is something we do every year in the summertime. We generally cancel those second meetings in both July and August. All right, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger.
Am I voting yes on this? No.
Yes.
Counselor Hopkins.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sakala.
4.
And Counselor Despard.
4.
9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Let me read it. Yeah. Last item, item O, discussion resolution creating and appointing members to the Senior Tax Relief Committee. Whereas the town of Enfield wishes to create a Senior Tax Relief Committee comprised of 5 residents of the town for a 1-year term, and whereas the town currently participates in the state senior and disabled tax relief programs under Connecticut General Statute, Section 12-170AA. This is a 2-year program that had 486 applicants during the 2019 and 2020 grand list years. Although this program should be reimbursed by the state during this time, for the 2019 and 20 grand list, the town did not receive state reimbursement and paid approximately $300,000 through its budget to cover the program obligation. The town has adopted a parallel program that closely matches the state, so the town obligation has been approximately $600,000 for the time period stated. And whereas the Connecticut General Statute, Section 12-129N, allows the town, at its discretion, to adopt an additional senior and disabled tax relief program to be funded completely through the town budget. As required by statute, a 5-member committee shall be formed to study and investigate a town-sponsored program and to report the fiscal effect of such a program on the town's tax revenue and recommend the form and extent of the tax relief program. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby creates a Senior Tax Relief Committee pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 12-129N, to study and investigate for a town-sponsored senior and disabled tax relief program. Be it further resolved, the committee will consult with town staff to discuss the fiscal impact of the program. Date prepared, May 25th, 2022, by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini. Seconded by Councilor Ungary. Discussion or questions? Councilor Ludwig.
What's this committee going to do? Where are the 5 members? How are they going to know? How's 5 members going to know what tax relief is appropriate and what's not? Is it to review the $600,000 we already spend on the circuit breaker program? I mean, and I hate to say it, why? I mean, there was folks who wanted daycare credits. Why weren't we giving daycare credits? So why, if we're looking to give tax relief, why don't we look at giving it beyond one designation? I'm not saying I'm not, but, and again, how's the committee going to know the impact to our budget, if they say we're going to give someone X amount of percentage off their taxes?
So you're forming this because you are allowed to do so by state law,
Okay.
whereas some of the other creative conversations that we had about tax relief over the course of the budget, we are not enabled by state legislation in order to do that. So this one has been very popular in other communities. There is a mandatory piece that you have to have a citizen review serve as that tax relief committee. We've identified potential members, but the mayor and leadership thought it was best to bring you the resolution first and then have the discussion about membership after the resolution if it was successful. That being said, there's a lot of different creative ways that tax relief can be applied to seniors, and they're targeted mostly because of the fixed income piece, and so trying to keep their costs static while still aging in place is a really important piece of the community. So this is going to be something, and I looked at a couple of other communities after leadership. Trumbull has done one that is pretty aggressive. Their additional tax relief was higher than what was being proposed, I think, originally in our conversations. Bristol has done it successfully. There's also other pieces of senior tax relief, including a volunteer tax credit for people who still own their own homes but who actively volunteer in the community. This committee can look at all of that. I also know that there's some committees throughout the state that reported back to either their Board of Finance or their governing body after doing the research, asking those questions that you just asked, that said, we're good. With the circuit program that the state offers, that's enough. We have enough people participating. We don't need to go any farther.
So they're going to review whether that's enough.
Right.
Even though we fund it all, the state doesn't fund it. So what about, sorry, great explanation, I appreciate it. So what about senior housing? So we offer senior housing in town, and the percentage of actually seniors in those housing is roughly 50-something%. I understand the state, unfortunately, allows it to be a certain percentage. Could that be part of this? Because again, that always bugs me when we have 4 or 5 again, I understand some people want to stay in their home, I'm not saying that. A lot of folks would love to be able to afford to live in, one of our senior housing, but a lot of it's taken up by non-seniors. So can that be part of that look? I mean, I understand it's a state statute and the state sort of dictates, but I mean, that's always part of tax relief.
Right. So you're probably referencing the rental rebate program.
I can't remember the name.
I don't know the answer to that, but I
Okay.
can see if it is incorporated into the scope of what this new legislation allows.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other discussion or questions? Just very briefly, I think this is a great idea. I know in leadership we did discuss this. I think it's wonderful. What this committee could do is start to explore, do we want to offer this tax credit? And sort of go through the income threshold, and even things like, could we offer a different credit that has a higher threshold or a lower threshold, I guess, for income? And that could be the volunteer one. They could also discuss that.
Right. That's an excellent point that I should have made. So the Circuit Breaker program has certain income eligibilities. So what a lot of communities have done has structured either their senior volunteer tax credit program or their overlay and increased what that threshold is so that you're capturing more people. So it's not like, Sally Jones, who lives at whatever Enfield Street, is getting both. You're expanding the scope. So now the eligibility is that some of those people who are right on the bubble but don't qualify now qualify.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the volunteer one, this committee could look at, sort of the application process and what the restrictions and the parameters are. And I think it's a great idea. It's something else we can offer the seniors. Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. Just quickly, through our deputy mayor to our town manager, how are we soliciting residents to apply for this position?
Actually, there was several names that were brought forward from both political affiliations, comprised of people from the community who had been active and or are currently active in government, because it's really not something that you want to spend a lot of time with a primer on how government works. And so we selected people that we thought might be interested. There's not been any formal outreach. They may say no, but there's always the formal application process on the website. If anybody is interested, or they can call the office and express interest in serving as well. We'll most likely do a press release as well now that the resolution looks like it's on its way to being voted on.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Finger?
4.
Counselor Hopkins?
4.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini? Counselor Pisner?
Yes.
Counselor Santinella?
4.
Counselor Ungary? 4. Deputy Mayor Sakala?
4.
Counselor Despard?
4.
9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Item 12, any other business proper to come before the meeting? None. Item 13, public communications. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak? The council, you can come on up on this second round. You get 3 minutes, but the same rule applies. Just be respectful and state your name and address for the record. Donna, you wanted to go first?
Donna Suzak, 35 South Road. Didn't intend to speak other than to say thank you for my years of service here. I'd like to have a point of clarification. Republicans have always sent forward one candidate. They have always interviewed their candidates. I've been involved in probably 6 of them and a Board of Ed one. My husband always says, sometimes you're proud of where you live, and sometimes you're ashamed of where you live. And I honestly, to ask a person questions about a Board of Ed and a issue that most of us in the town are all wondering what everybody's talking about, because we're not privy to these things. So, when Red passed, we put Bob in within 2 weeks. Bob was the chosen candidate. He went in. I mean, I know, Cindy, you got an axe to grind over Tom's that happened years ago. Change has happened. When Councilman Sarno resigned, You had an endorsed candidate, and they had an applied candidate. So we did interview both. We chose the endorsed candidate. When Bill Kiner stepped down, we put Bob back in again. When we had all ours, when we had Greg go, we had Carol, we brought one candidate forward and you interviewed them. This 3-candidate business has never happened. I mean, you want to change things, change them in the charter. But really, you wonder, why do people not volunteer? This is why. They're raked through the coals. They're embarrassed. They haven't even had the book opened in front of them where they can find out the information on the town. I mean, your eyes get opened so much when you sit in those seats. We know so much. I take a wealth of knowledge away from having my years of service. And it's amazing what you can do to help other people who don't know what the big book is. But tonight, I am ashamed, and I'm sorry to say that. Just go home and reflect upon what you actually did. Thank you.
Thank you. Walter?
Walter J. Cruzel, 21 Charlie Road. Let me begin by what I forgot my first time around. Sorry for your loss, Councilor Finger. You will be in my prayers this Sunday at church. You and your family. Sorry for your loss. Now I'm going to put my Chairman Emeritus title on. Board Member Hall, Board Member Neville, Vice Chairman Costa, Board Member Rutledge, Board Member Salazar, thank you. That was only my second term. Then there was ones in the first term. There was ones when I was sitting over at the end. There was Vice Chairman Ludwig when they all had to resign, or we had to appoint persons. It was always one. It was never 3. It was always 1. And I don't know. You got to look up that YouTube video of that FOI meeting, because there was a lot discussed there, and you newbies should really look that up. And if ET's listening, they should put it back on in the dead spots and replay it, because it was very informative. My 6 years on the board, I missed 1 meeting. It was my first term when I was appointed, because we went to Florida for Thanksgiving. That was the only meeting I missed. On the building committee, high school building committee, I think I was 98%. On the joint facilities, I kept attendance. I think I was 98%. I gave up family things because I was elected to this. This was important. You can ask my family. I gave up a lot of it. I spent my 50th birthday sitting on this board. I spent the wedding anniversary sitting on this board. So if you are elected, this is what you're elected to do. And shame on you all. That's all I have to say. Shame on you all. I hope. Every Pledge of Allegiance, my predecessor, Chairman Sherrod, always just mumbled softly, "God bless America." Well, I took that to heart, and I say it loudly, "God bless America." Ever since the election in November, I added, "God bless Enfield, Connecticut." Well, today it's "God help Enfield, Connecticut," because we really need his help now more than ever. That man on the left there, January 20th, 2021,
Time's up,
what did he
Walter.
say?
Thank you.
Unity. Hasn't happened since that day.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Public communications is closed. Item 14, Counselor Communications. Doug, Counselor Finger.
Yeah, I'd just like to know, we've had a Boy Scout in the back room this whole time. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. Is he here to earn a badge? Because if it is, he gets 2. Because of what or 3, there you go, for what he's done and sat here and had to listen to tonight. And congratulations, you're a good man.
Counselor Mangini, then Counselor Pisner.
Thank you. I just wanted to recognize an event that most of us did attend. It was, the proclamation for Pride Month that was on June 1st right here on the steps, and it was very well attended, and it was a form of unity for the people of Enfield, and I believe there were some people from out of town, and the message was extended that we are all, brothers and sisters, celebrating and honoring people of diversity, and we should all continue to show respect in that fashion. So I was happy to be able to attend and share with others on the green. Thank you.
Counselor Pisner.
I just want to remind everyone of what Joey Bosco's daughter said tonight. Because not one of us ever looked at Joey and said, who do you want in your seat? Because we wanted him. His daughter tonight said that Jim Nasuda was a man that her father wanted in that seat. So everybody just kind of reflect on that.
Anybody else?
Sure. I want to thank Walter and Donna for your service and for your kind words and wisdom.
Thank you. Any other Counselor Communications? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Counselor Mangini, seconded by Counselor Despard. All in favor? Anybody against? All right, 9 in favor. Thank you very much.